Hey everybody, welcome back to another day here at Gamestars League. We're only 3 days away from giving away $30,000. That's right, months of play are in the books, and we are finally in the final stretch. What's up, everybody? I'm Andrew Guy. Joining me today, of course, is Eric Benamou. He's been with me for the entire ride throughout Gamestars League. And Eric, we're in the international finals, a group stage. We've already had 2 days of action. We're going into day number 3. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. A completely different style group today than yesterday and even the day before. We have very proactive, hard-hitting players today, so it should go for a lot more fast-paced matches. Yesterday was very calculated, and I'm very excited to see the difference in how it fares today.
I like the verbiage of proactive. Some people might say reckless, aggressive, unabandoned, unabashed, but Abdullah Imad is going to be out there again today, one of our favorites so far in Gamestars League, and he's hoping to join a few people that have already made it through to our finals that are going to be happening this Saturday and Sunday. Best of 7s on Saturday and Sunday, excuse me, but best of 5s all day today and this week. Yesterday, we saw One Hive Hunter and Eternity move on, as well as Hugo and Inthrill earlier on Tuesday. Today, Lucas GSM, Abdullah Imad, Financier, and Demas are all coming out. And Eric, we have not seen Lucas or Financier since our first days of competition.
Yeah, we haven't seen them for a long time, but Lucas is one of those players that has been around forever. It seems like he's played in almost every competition from Spain, just online, everything, and I'm glad to still see him around. So experience is definitely a key factor, and that's why I'm not that worried. But for Financier not being able to play in a while is a little bit worrying for me.
Yeah, Abdullah Imad and Demas had to work through a couple more stages in that group stage before we got to our finals to make it here into Group C. 4 players today. 2 of them will be eliminated. 5 best of 5s will be played, starting with Lucas versus Abdullah Imad, and then we'll go to Financier versus Demas. And a lot of fun here working through our international group stages as well as just the group stage. We've gone from over 70 players down to 16. I think we're down to 12 now, and we'll be at 8 by the end of this week. And Eric, a big part of the success through every single week of this competition have been all about the decks. Gamestars League is a very specific league when we're talking about cards and decks, and this league specifically, we can have 3 decks brought to the competition. 6 cards in every single deck can be the same, but 2 of them have to be unique every single time out. And these cards, excuse me, these 8 are the most popular cards over the last 2 days of competition.
And they should be. We know the Elite Barbarians and the Mother Witch are without a doubt the strongest cards in the meta. And then you see the Goblin Cage, which is great against that E-Giant, against the Golems, and the Fireball is clearly the best spell. So everything makes sense that we're seeing here. But this group is one group that I'm really looking out for. What kind of strategy are they coming out with? They have 2 players that are very much known for the decks that they use. Abdullah for Lava and Demas for MK, Mega Knight. Will they use their comfort decks, or will they try to surprise their opponents?
Well, as you can see right now, Lava Hound in the top right, only at 33% win rate, and that is one of the more popular decks out there. Obviously, the Barbs can be swapped out for the Elite Barbarians. The exact opposite corner at a 7% selection rate and almost a 60% win rate is that Mega Knight deck that has been very popular since the start of this meta. So we'll see if any of those cards come into play today. We saw a little bit of Electro Giant yesterday. We saw none on Tuesday. So let's hear from our players before we hop into this set. Let's talk to Lucas and, of course, Abdullah Imad. So Abdullah Imad and Lucas GSM will be kicking us off here today in our very first best of 5. And Eric, you mentioned it at the very top of the show, two very different playstyles and very different playstyles today than yesterday. Yesterday we went the distance in almost all of our sets. We went to game number 5, I believe, in 80 or 90% of our sets yesterday. Today, obviously, we don't know how far we're going to go in our sets, but let's talk about playstyle a little bit, especially with Lucas and Abdullah specifically. Abdullah talked a lot about being way too aggressive. What were your thoughts on that and his recognition?
He said he was playing a little more defensive, but when I really think about it, I still think he's one of the most offensive players we've seen throughout the whole competition. And to me, it's not that much about playstyle at this point. It's about deck choice. Knowing Lucas is someone that has won competitions, won tournaments, been around for so long, there is no way that he gives Abdullah the same leniency that the other players did by matching up badly against Lava. So I need to see if Abdullah, if you are running Lava, can you overcome tough matchups? Because I don't expect the players in this bracket this late on into the tournament to give him good matchups using his Lava deck.
And that's a great way to kind of paint it using the word leniency. Yesterday, we saw Lucas's former teammate, One Hive Hunter, struggle a lot against Roofy. And after the match, we were able to talk to him in the post-game interview, and he was talking about it was tilting. Roofy clearly had his number. He had looked forward to other competitors One Hive Hunter had in his set, thinking that just his skill alone could get him past Roofy. And it ended up doing it by about 1 HP in one game and about 80 in another. But the sniping from Roofy was really, really exceptional. And I'm wondering if that's going to come into play today because, Abdullah was a guy that went straight to Lava Hound in his first day out. The second day, he changed it a little bit. We saw some more Electro Giant, but he struggled. I'm hoping today he does maybe 3 different win conditions.
Yeah, and on the other side, it's something that I've spoken about with Igor in the past, right? When we would play the regular season, it was okay. Yeah, you want to use Mortar, go for it. I'm sure we can get away with it. But when it's playoffs time, and I consider this playoffs time for the Gamestars League, everything changes. Yeah. You got to bring everything out. You cannot just run the same thing over and over again because the competition, even the weakest player to say that in the bracket, in your bracket, is a strong player. They qualified out of so many people.
So it appears that we are getting notes from production right now that we are getting a match change on the fly. It's the first time that this has happened in Gamestars League, so I'm not sure if we'll be seeing our second set first. Yeah, I think we'll be seeing Financier versus Demas. So we're going to be catching their videos maybe later. Maybe we'll do a reversal and watch their videos before Lucas and Abdullah. But we're going to hop into this set as soon, as possible. Financier and Demas, it's a pretty similar conversation to what we were just talking about, at least in regards to when the last time they played was. Financier, I believe, was April 12th, our second day of competition, or at least the second day that you and I had joined the competition. Demas, a guy that we thought was going to cruise on through originally, kind of had his ups and downs over the last month.
Yeah, and it's the same thing that I was speaking about Abdullah. The good thing about the match change is that I still stand by the same thing. Demas, will you run your Mega Knight that everyone is expecting? You struggled with it early on. In that second day that we saw him play, he strayed a little bit away from his usual Mega Knight minor deck with no big spell, and it played a lot better into his hand, into what his opponents could expect. The only thing I want to see out of this is Financier still feeling, that confidence and everything after not playing for that long, because Demas is very experienced, Lucas is very experienced, and Abdullah, even though he's not as experienced competition wise, he is in ladder. So I need to see if Financier is feeling maybe the nerves, got to get the rust off, and maybe that first match in this set might be a little bit rough for him.
Yeah, Financier we haven't seen since, looks like April 15th, I'm looking at over here, where he beat SRV and he beat Predator. And Predator, a guy that didn't actually make it to where we are now in the tournament, was one of the bigger or more applauded names, celebrated names coming into the tournament. So Financier, he was very impressive, but it was so long ago. The meta has shifted so much since then. And speaking of that shift in the meta, I do want to talk a little bit more about what Abdullah was saying with Electro Giant. We don't even have to refer to him, but we can just talk about it in general. We didn't see it at all on Tuesday. We saw it a good amount yesterday to a lot of success. It was actually played very, very well yesterday. Abdullah was way too aggressive with it when he played it. Why do you think it worked so well when we saw it from our competitors yesterday?
We saw it from the two best competitors in the bracket yesterday, two very experienced players, two players that understand how to play this type of deck. And that was Abdullah's biggest problem. He was playing it as if it was a lava deck. You cannot play it just because it's as heavy doesn't mean that it's the same play style. You cannot play lava like you play golem. You cannot play golem like you play E-Giant. You cannot play E-Giant like you play lava. Every deck has its certain type of playing. And that's the reason I think we didn't see it in day one. It was a little bit of more of a less experienced group. And on the other end, we had someone like Eternity, who is one of the best heavy deck players, heavy archetype players, bring it out. And then One Hive Hunter, who really is someone that can play any type of deck. So today, if I see it, I expect that out of Dimas.
Yeah, with the Electro Giant, it felt like it was so strong early on in the meta that anyone could kind of win with it. People were still trying to figure out the best way to defend it. They were figuring out what kind of matched up in the meta the most effectively against Electro Giant. We saw a lot more mortar, we saw a lot more buildings, and we saw a lot more ways to kind of create opposite lane pressure. I mean, we even saw Graveyard pop up a good amount for a couple weeks. It does feel like yesterday we saw two very patient and calculated players waiting for their moment to get the Electro Giant out. And that's a lot of what we've talked about this week in general, the competition kind of going up to that next level, that next tier. You know, it feels like, you know, we spoke specifically about players waiting for their opponents to make mistakes as opposed to trying to create opportunities, because a lot of times in those creating opportunistic moments, they overspend and then they don't have enough elixir on defense.
Yeah, and when you play at this level and the groups get harder and harder, everyone is going to capitalize a lot more on those mistakes. Every mistake is 10 times as costly as it was in the first day you played this competition. You're only playing the best players out of each group at this point, so you have to be very, very careful. And look, at the end of the day, these players also understand this is a $30,000 match. If I lose here, if I get eliminated, my shot at that big money is over.
That's right. You may not be winning 30K today, but the journey might stop, and you never want that to happen. So, Financier, top of your screen. We haven't seen this deck since maybe the second week of competition, but it's a very control-heavy deck, but with a nice ability to get those wall breakers on tower. And then, of course, in the opposing side of the board, down playing blue, Dimas, we see some Mega Knight action.
Yeah, Mega Knight wall breakers is what he's known for. It's what he likes. Mega Knight minor wall breakers. He did change it up to fit this meta, which I really like. He adapted it early on in this competition. He used his original one that didn't have the Mother Witch or the Elite Barbarians. Now he's implementing both of the strongest cards in the game, and look at that defense to the wall breakers. I didn't even know that interaction with the Mother Witch, but it spawns one Hoggy in each lane while also taking care of both wall breakers. Really, really nice out of him.
Yeah, that's a really, really great placement for you guys, an interaction for you guys at home watching to kind of take note of. That's a great way to turn that elixir around. Yes, it's a +2 trade for your opponent, but you get those Hoggies on the board. And right now, we find ourselves with 2 towers hurt on Financier's side, 1854 and 1555. Dimas is taking a little bit of damage on the left-hand side, but the noteworthy damage is bottom right-hand, 1969 as we get into double elixir.
Yeah, and usually when you see someone play against wall breakers and they have the King Tower activated, mentally you think, oh, that's great. But generally speaking, they will still hit if you don't defend well. The tower is just not quick enough to get those wall breakers down. So it is cool that he activated. It is nice that it'll do extra damage to the miner, but overall it's not as big of a factor as if you're playing against Graveyard or something like that. So Dima's still in a very nice position here and getting a lot of chip damage with his miners.
You can see Financier targeting that Mother Witch with his miner, and yeah, a lot of damage in on that left-hand side. 730 HP remains, and Financier, looking like an unlocked or a not yet unlocked character from a video game, is struggling here in game number 1.
Yeah, I really like that. And yeah, he is. I think the Tesla, as nice as it is to spam it, in this type of deck, it actually doesn't work that well on defense because the wall breakers are always going to take it down, and the Mega Knight is just such a hard counter to it when you have a miner as well. If it was just the Mega Knight, there's no problem. But once the Mega Knight starts taking for that miner, all you care about is the chip. You don't actually care about the Mega Knight getting to tower. It takes care of the Tesla, and then you can just pressure with everything else. And Dimas, we know already, he is one of the best Mega Knight players in the game, not just in Gamestars, but in the game overall, and it's recognized by a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, and he is playing this really, really clean. He's obviously got himself in a really great matchup. He has Mega Knight for the E-Barbs when they're coming down the lane. You saw that Mother Witch defense early on, but he's been doing really great with his arrows and Zap to clear up some space offensively, or of course to clean up the wall breakers defensively. So Finance here, nothing but struggles right now. We see a wall breaker kite with one Elite Barbarian connecting. Arrows getting a lot of value on that right-hand side, but look at that, 901 remains on the bottom left to 586.
Yeah, Demas has to be careful. Again, this is one of the things that I never really like about his decks, but he tends to feel comfortable. So you know what, it is what it is. He never runs it with big spell. On the other side, you have fireball, so even if you are down a certain amount of damage, whether it be 150, you're still in the game, technically in the lead because of your fireball. So he just has to play calm, try to mitigate all the damage he can, and at the end of the game, Financier could still actually win this. And that was a really nice NATO.
What a beautiful NATO. He picks up the defense on the left-hand side perfectly. You get the Tesla up high. You get the Goblins down low to catch that Miner. Now we get an E-Barb running around the other side. It will catch. And we see the overspend there by Financier. Demas's Mega Knight going to connect on that right-hand side, but only 480 HP remains on the bottom right. Fireball in, just like you talked about, Eric. Those arrows take the Goblins off the board. Wow.
What a start. What a start to the day.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And you called it, man. You said it perfectly. You were like, that fireball is really going to be the X factor, the it factor, and it really was the thing that came through. Demas had a really, really great predictive arrows on top of the Goblins, knowing that the E-Barbs were out of cycle to get a little bit more damage in, and you saw that last second drop of the wall breakers by Financier. I mean, I have to admit, Demas seemed a lot more impressive in this game, but he lost.
It was all about that NATO back. I think Demas never expected that to come in. I didn't expect it. I don't think anyone did. And Financier really, really impressed me with that play. That's not a play that you really ever see. It's one of those very rare predicts to how your opponent is gonna defend your wall breakers, and Demas was completely caught off guard, which caused him to not have an answer ready for those wall breakers. They come at you really quick, and that was a difference maker.
Yeah, that was such a wonderfully executed tornado, and I had a moment like that on ladder just a couple days ago where I thought I had a defense locked in. We were only like 20 seconds into the game, and they did a sellout push, and they got one good NATO in, and I was done. Just like that. That's exactly what happened right here. A beautiful heads up NATO from Financier pulls the Mega Knight back, which was more than adequate defense. We get a wall breaker connection, we get an E-Barb connection, and the game ends up being 44 HP in favor of Financier. So here we go, game number 2, Demas down 1.
Yeah, not a position that I thought Demas was going to be in after the first minute and a half of that game. But props to Financier for bringing it back, especially against a really good Mega Knight player. That is probably his comfort deck out of all the decks that he has here today. I'm not sure which other ones he chose. I hope it's not all Mega Knight, because I'm sure they're going to get countered. But overall, still really, really impressive that he was able to bring it back.
So Mortar up high here, makes sense. Take one shot there, nice placement, no shots on tower, and a really strong counter push coming in. Valkyrie to respond.
Yeah, and he has arrows here if he wants to use it. I'm not sure if he will, or zap or something. He decides to not use anything at all, and it's probably because he had no elixir. If he did use that zap, he would have been at 0, and a nice placement on the Mother Witch to really take care of everything here.
Yeah, the Miner goes to that inside middle tile to try to tank for the right-hand push, and Demas looks into the future, places his Mother Witch in the perfect spot to play dual lane defense, and finds himself in a pretty good position, all things considered, being down in elixir with how much he just had to deal with. So we find ourselves even in elixir and pretty even in damage.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I do want to point out from Demas that has impressed me is the Mother Witch placements have been perfect to deal with the dual lane pressures and really spawn in those hoggies every single time to the maximum of his ability. It feels like he's getting the most value possible out of every single Mother Witch, and that's pretty impressive compared to what I've seen out of other players.
Yeah, I like that you point that out, because what it shows more than anything, Eric, is that he's just put in the work, right? He's put in the time with the Mother Witch, with the new meta, and figuring out every single interaction, where to place it tile-wise, with whatever your opponent sends your way. And yeah, I like it. It just shows that he's been putting in the time.
Yeah, it sure has. And that's a big point in moving on, is how well adapted are you to this meta. First off, we're only seeing this deck, but I'm very curious to see what else he's bringing, because if he is that you know, that studied in it, and that mortar is gonna connect, if he is that studied in the new meta, then he should be bringing some new type of decks. And I hope for his sake they are not all Mega Knight, really.
The one thing that you said last game that we highlighted quite a bit in the post-game discussion was talking about the big spell usage of Demus and how he just doesn't seem to like to use big spells. I mean, obviously he's been very successful with it in his career, but Eric, is that one of the things that you just kind of need to maybe let go in the current meta and just be like, all right, I'm gonna have to play a big spell for a couple months?
Yeah, I think in this meta it's really not the play. You just play against too many things that you need big spells for. Right now he's actually not even in the worst matchups when it comes to not having the big spells, because he's playing up against bait and mortar and all this. So, you know, zap and arrows are great, but if he does match up against something like an E-Giant, a lava, golem, he's gonna struggle a lot.
Yeah, and right there you saw his spell power coming in again. Nice arrows to clean up a lot of the defense from Financier, but Financier does hold on. 1208 to 618. Financier playing really clean here through his first two games, and Miner will get on tower. No, it does not. Mega Knight resets.
Yeah, he forces out the Mega Knight though, so he's in a good position to the point where he cannot, he's not allowing Demus to Mega Knight exactly where he wants, and when he wants, he needs to fireball that quickly. And there is a Valk. Nice defense from the Valk. He always needs to get that Mother Witch off the board, because he just has too many of those splash troops that are going to cause him a lot of problems.
Mortar up high to catch those wall breakers. Spear Goblin's right below that Inferno to help clean it up, and there's that fireball once again on the Mother Witch. Should get one mortar shot, does not. Nice call there.
Yeah, it won't get a hit just because of the last mortar shot went out a little bit too late, unfortunate for him, and now he needs to defend this still. That is actually not going to get a hit either on absolutely anything. And wow, this is another one of those games that's just gonna go down to possibly spell damage. If he catches this Miner, he's in a lot of problems here.
And Miner does get caught there. Mortar out, Mother Witch up high. 305, 282. Miner goes to the back, and a good game out from Financier. What a day for Financier. We haven't seen him in almost 2 months, Eric. And, you know, the first one, it felt like he maybe got away with something, but you can't really call it that when you have that great of a heads up NATO. Game number 2, much more classic Clash Royale.
Yeah, a lot more classic Clash Royale, and it's again the spell damage. You need to have something really there in this type of meta. It's causing him to lose these games. If he had a big spell instead of the arrows, he would have won both of these games easily. They would have been way out of Financier's reach. And at the end of the games, when we get into this triple elixir, Financier knows all I have to do is defend. When that Miner came in from Demus, you saw him put 2 different placements down to make sure he caught it, because he knew he could afford to overspend to catch that Miner, because all he needed to do was get that fireball onto Demus's tower.
And the more and more that I sit in the booth with you, I kind of recognize how important it is for the best players to recognize what the biggest threat is, right? Like what you're saying right there is basically the only thing that's going to make me lose this game is if that Miner keeps getting on tower. I've got my wall breakers, or his wall breakers defended with the mortar. I've got everything locked down with my Valkyrie plus Musketeer. My cycle is beating his, and I have the spell power. And it's something that you point out almost every single great matchup that we talk about, Eric, where you're like, he just recognized X, or he just didn't do Y. And it's really crazy after sitting up here with you now for months between CRL and Gamestars to see the best players recognize that, target it, and then win games.
Yeah, it's something that I learned off of my players as well, because I sat there, you knew how CRL worked, and I would be in that bench watching the matches, and sometimes I would get frustrated and be like, why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? And Canario and Surgical or Diego would tell me, no, watch, now all he's gonna do is wait for this. And as time goes on and you understand the minds of the best players, it's crazy how you start to recognize it as well. And I'm not saying I can apply it, because I still am not good at all at playing the game, game, but I understand why people do things and how to win games. And yeah, at the end of the day, you see the people moving on in this tournament be the ones that identify it the quickest. Most of them identify it, but it's how quick can you do it.
Yeah, if you can do it in the second or third time around in your cycle, then that usually is within the first minute and a half of the game, or excuse me, 2 minutes of the game, and that still leaves you 3 minutes to put the hurt on your opponent. So speaking of minutes in this game, we're about a minute and a half way through regulation here. 8-3 is Financier's record to a 14-12 out of Demas, which reflects a lot of what we were speaking on at the beginning of the day. Financier cruised on through his original group stage. Demas has been going back and forth and back and forth, and he did finally make it through just a couple weeks ago. He's going to go back to a Mega Knight Wall Breakers deck. No surprise here.
Yeah, and he's going back at it. I'm not sure if the strategy is okay if I lose at least the next game they don't know my other two decks, or if he just really wants to hammer it home and say, if I win with this deck, I can bring it back. What a nice miner from Financier. He's playing amazing Clash Royale.
Yeah, that was such a beautiful miner, and what I also love about that miner placement, and look at that, the snowball reset. Wow. With the bats come in, he gets a couple more mortar shots. Now we're gonna get a miner to the back. He's gonna keep the pressure on. Mega Knight in, did he overspend?
Yeah, I think he got a little bit excited on his push there, and he's gonna pay for it here by a lot. He is gonna take all the damage that he just won. Is basically down the drain, but I still love the plays that he made. They were so smart, they were so impactful into the game. The only thing that he will have to know now is that Demas is gonna recognize the play style. Demas is someone very experienced, and he's gonna understand, okay, he's gonna waste his miner on my Mother Witch. How can I use that to my advantage? And I wouldn't be shocked if Demas baits it out constantly and then uses it in his favor.
Yeah, I mean, Financier, I've been here many, many times before being a mortar player, and especially with the bait aspects of it. You saw him get ahead of himself. He had a couple great big hits there, but then that last set, Miner plus Spear Goblins, was a bit of an overspend. 1490 to 887. Very impressive stuff so far.
Yeah, very, very, very nice start for him, and that's all she wrote for that mortar. But these goblins are doing work for him as well, and this is what I want to see. Give me a lot more miners and quick cycles, force out those defenses. He does have big spell again, so all he needs to do is keep it within 150 to 200, and he'll be fine by the end of the game.
So here we go, high Valkyrie to catch those E-barbs, mortar right next to it to try to get on tower, maybe bait something out. Does get the Mother Witch out. Now the poison, just like he called it, perfect opportunity there, and bit of a misplay from Demas. We get a high Mega Knight to get on top of that Musketeer. Bats in, Bats getting value with that Mother Witch off the board. Yeah, and I really want to see him start using the Mother Witch on the split lane. There is no real reason why he needs to put it where he's giving poison value. I think that's a big mistake out of him. He's given him poison value a couple times now, and he knows he's not going to get anything out of the Mother Witch, so it's better to place it off to the left, high onto the mortar, than to keep trying to get some extra value out of it and giving up poison value every single time. And there it is, high poison right where Financier was expecting, but the snowball pushes the Mother Witch out of the poison. That's game right there.
Yeah, it is. That's a big mistake out of him. He can still win, and that Mega Knight is actually not great, because if he catches this miner, which he did not, there it is, game over. If he caught that miner, he definitely had a chance. That miner was going to get full value on the bottom, and with one more cycle, he cycles a lot quicker. And Financier, it seems to all have come down to that one amazing play that he overspent at the last second, and it cost him almost 1,500 damage.
Yeah, it started off so pretty, right? That beautiful miner catch to get the Mother Witch that was ready for the bats, or ready for the troops coming across the bridge. Bats come down to catch that Inferno with the reset on the snowball. Everything was great until the Spear Goblins plus the miner at the end. And I know that feeling when you overspend at the river, a Mega Knight comes down, which you kind of have to expect out of Demas. I think that's probably where the biggest misstep was from Financier. Yes, the opportunity was there. Yes, the damage was there, but you have to know that guy has Mega Knight in his hand, at least with this deck. So Mega Knight comes down and basically turns the tide very quickly in Demas's favor, who now has a little bit of breath of life back in. He was about to be eliminated.
Yeah, and now this is where it gets tricky for Financier. What other decks does Demas have? Now you know, Demas knows, okay, I'm going up against Mortar. What is my best deck? Let me use that right now. And then in a 2-2, maybe that experience and the pressure could get to Financier late in this set, and Demas could bring it back. I'm very curious to see what Demas's other decks are, and they're both hitting it up with Miner early on.
Yeah, Financier, a big fan of the Miner. He's gone Mortar twice, and of course that Ice Wizard Tesla control style deck that he ran in game number 1. So we'll see how that fares in his second set of the day. But right now, Demas trying to turn things around here.
Yeah, and it seems today's going to be a Mega Knight type of day for Demas. He is not straying too far away from what he knows, and he's going basically, I think this is the same type of deck that we just saw. Yeah, Inferno Dragon, and the only change that I see right now is that Fisherman for Demas. I'm curious if the rest of the deck is exactly the same and maybe just switch the arrows for a Fireball.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to find out and see if Demas is going to do something that hasn't been super successful as we've moved through the tournament, which is to kind of run back the same win condition or the same archetype through all 3 games. But this is only the second deck showing from Demas, so maybe he'll have a swerve in game number 3. Here we go, Bats plus Miner from Financier, and we could say Snowball plus Fisherman out of Demas.
Yeah, so those are the 2 cards that he switched in. We know that for a fact. He did not have Snowball, he did not have Fisherman, but it is all about, did he take out the Zap or did he take out the arrows in this deck? We're not 100% sure yet, and we're gonna have to see. And it does seem a little bit like he's trying to prepare maybe for Abdullah, knowing that Abdullah's decks do run the Skarmy and the Bomber instead of those heavy barbs. And these do match up well with the Inferno Dragon and the Mother Witch and the Mega Knight. So it looks like maybe he was more prepared for later on in the day than he was specifically for Financier.
And I like that call a lot because that's something that One Hive spoke about a little bit yesterday, was that he kind of had prepped more for later on in the day, which is why Rufy almost took him out of play. And so Demas's decks looking like they stack up very well, and there are the arrows coming out. We get that E-Barb on tower. No, Goblins sneak around with the help of that Snowball. Now Mother Witch going to come out and try to spawn some piggies.
Yeah, and it looks like Demas is suffering the same fate as yesterday for One Hive. He focused a little bit late on, and he's really on the brink of getting eliminated by his first opponent. Well, not eliminated, but sent to the lower bracket the same way that One Hive was, and One Hive survived by just enough. And so far, it seems like the same is happening.
Yeah, right now, Demas really struggling. We do get that Miner on tower. Mega Knight lead comes in. There's the Inferno up high. Valkyrie turns it around. Now the Bats come in. Great Mother Witch to get on top of those Bats, and this is trouble. A lot of trouble for Financier.
Yeah, I think he lost there. That Musketeer going into the splash damage of the Mega Knight really cost him the game. That Musketeer is your highest DPS dealer, and it's gone. And there it is. Demas is back. 2-2, and you didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect, but it looks like we're carrying on with some game 5s from yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. That Mother Witch, the value of that Mother Witch, getting all those piggies on the board on that right-hand side. You see the panic, or not the panic, but you got to get that Valkyrie down to turn that Inferno Dragon around. Piggies keep piling up. Beautiful. I mean, that's 2 comeback wins in a row here from Demas, and now Financier. I mean, the comeback came very quickly in game number 3 with that Mega Knight at the bridge, but now in game number 4, this set is all even, and Financier starting to struggle or show some signs of struggle with this deck that was a lot more popular about 6 months ago.
Yeah, the problem here with Financier is that I think he's playing his mortars a little too high up. He's using them to try to get a hit instead of playing them further back where it's going to get a lot more value onto the Mother Witch, and he should always have that Valk ready for the Mega Knight. 2 times in this game he didn't have Valk in cycle for the Mega Knight. The Mega Knight was able to get on tower or force out just too much defense, and I think it all comes down to his mortars being placed too high.
So here we go. Game number 5 in our first set of the day. Demas has yet to show his 3rd deck. Financier will be going back to Valkyrie, Mortar, Goblins, Musketeer, Snowball, and Poison.
Yeah, and I'm the only thing I'm a little bit curious about is, does this match up well against Mortar? Because we know that this deck, he chose not to use it last match. He knew what he was going up against, and he had a choice of two different decks, and he decided not to go with this one. So maybe he doesn't feel as comfortable going up against Mortar.
Ram Rider doesn't really connect there. Mortar's still locked on tower. Royal Ghost has to come out as well, so a big time overspend. Great placement there on the miner to pull that Royal Ghost over, and very similar start to last game, but now we just need to make sure that Financier is able to pump the brakes.
Yeah, Financier could not have asked for a better start here. He really could not. This is the best possible start. He's even on Elixir and basically 1,000 ahead on damage with a cycle that he should be comfortable with. He has his Mortar back in play. He has that Valk back and ready to use for defense, and really didn't suffer any overspend, nothing. He's in a really, really good position.
Yeah, really surprised by that, honestly. I thought maybe the poison would have been an overspend, but you see the E-Wiz that had to come down, and it all comes back to, I believe, that Ram Rider coming out early on and being perfectly defended by Financier, offering no defensive utility for Demus, and a very clean first minute and a half, or minute 45 here from Financier, but now he finds himself victim of what he was last game. A bit of an overspend leaves him hurting on defense.
And this all comes down to one thing that I've said very, very early on in this competition, and I haven't mentioned it again. Predictability, man. You cannot keep doing the same thing, Financier. He knows it's coming. Every time he plays bats, he tries to miner the Mother Witch, and this time around it got caught by the Ghost, it got taken care of, and then it spawned the Hoggies. He's done that so many times, and early on I applauded it. That was great. Great recognition. You have to do that, but every time you do that, it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse because Demus knows it's coming.
Yeah, you know, you were just speaking about, or we were just speaking about, early or mid-game adjustments, recognizing what can punish you the most and taking care of that thing. And it does seem like Demus has been doing a much better job with his mid-game recognition of what he needs to take care of to win. He's turned those last two games around, game 3 and game 4, and it's all because of recognition and patience.
Yeah, it sure is, and he still might win this game, but moving forward, he needs to be a lot more careful with the way that he does his moves offensively, especially going up against Mother Witch, because you know that the other opponents or whoever else he's going to face later on in the day already noticed that that's the way he likes to attack, and if this miner connects, it is game over, and as risky as it got, he's moving through.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he has a lot of HP left on both of those towers, so maybe being a little critical on Financier, but he is able to close things out. Great job there in the final game of getting a huge hit early on and then being able to ride that out, whereas in games 3 and games 4, he maybe got a bit overexcited. On the other side of it, Eric, Demus, it seems like he kind of finds his footing about a minute and a half into the game, but unfortunately for him in this set, a lot of damage done in that first minute and a half in the 3 games that he lost.
Yeah, it seemed like he wasn't comfortable playing in these matchups, and it could be Financier also expecting to go up against Mega Knight, which we all did, right? We all expect. Yeah. It's like going up against Abdullah and saying, I expected lava. Yeah, I'm sure you did, and I'm sure you practiced it, and that could be Demus's downfall here. He went 2 Mega Knight decks, not one, which is okay, you want to go comfort, go for it, go one of them, but 2 of them is a little too risky in my opinion.
And that was the big time NATO right there from Financier, actually on both sides of the board. One time offensively, one time defensively, and you can see the difference of 44 HP. Get a fireball there, and this is a good connection early on from Financier in game number 2. And it was a very, very close game number 2 from Financier, and then it went all in favor of Demus in games 3 and 4. But Financier looked unstoppable in the first 2.
Yeah, the first 2, he really showed that, you know, it seemed like he knew exactly how to play against Demus, and everything was so calculated. It was so perfect. At the end, it seemed like Demus in game number 3 and 4 kind of figured out what Financier was doing, and both of the Mega Knight decks, he played them accordingly to the way that Financier was playing, and that's why I was saying you got to be a little bit less predictable. I think that's the reason he was able to bring back 2 games, and at the end, just Financier really bringing it out with that strong start.
You see there Mega Knight coming down, going to catch that mortar, and this was the first game that Demas took. Very, very close game still. 500 HP, you know, a little bit farther than the last couple. And then you see here, this is a bit of the overwhelm from the Mother Witch, and that's the Mother Witch right there. She spawns the bridge, takes out the Valkyrie, spawns on top of all of these bats, and even gets one out on top of the miner that went right to her. And that's exactly what you were just saying, Eric, is that Demas started to recognize that miner was always going to go to the Mother Witch. That time got picked up, spawned some more piggies. But game number 5 was all the way back around to Financier, and it started with this really beautiful opening.
Yeah, the opening was perfect. Here he got a little bit back, Demas did, just because the Mother Witch got some value and it forced out extra defense. But then Financier really reset. I think he understood, okay, I just need to be calm here, get a little bit more damage. I'm so ahead that I don't need to force anything. And he finished it off very, very well. And really, I'm surprised, and in a good way. I'm surprised to see Financier come out this strong after how long he's been without playing.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect today, and there are the 3 decks from both of these players. You can see Demas's first 2, basically the exact same. The third one, 0% win rate, and didn't get to see much of that. So Financier moves on. Lucas GSM and Abdullah Imad will be the next match of the day, our next best of 5. Demas will wait to play whoever loses that set, and of course Financier will be playing the winner of that set. Winner of the set between Financier and, of course, the winner of this next one will be the winner of the day for Group C, but that's still a lot of Clash Royale to be played before we get there. So Lucas GSM, Abdullah Imad, we kind of already did the pre-game talk for them, the warm-up, if you will, because we thought we were going to start with them today, but let's circle back around and talk a little bit about Abdullah and Lucas.
Yeah, here we are with now I'm really curious, man. I did not expect to see 2 Mega Knight decks out of Demas, and now I'm starting to think Abdullah might come out with the same type of strategy, 2 lava decks. He's very, very comfortable, and it's not in an ego way. When we spoke about him, he just knows that he's really good with the deck, and I'm okay with that. But it is risky. We saw what just happened against Financier for Demas, because Lucas could be practicing against the Abdullah deck, or that type of lava deck, for the past week and a half, over and over and over again, and he could win very easily if Abdullah does bring 2 of the same style.
Yeah, and you know, Demas struggled with that, like you were just saying, against Financier. And so, you know, Abdullah, one thing that I really liked about his video that we saw before the game was he talked a lot about the things that he did wrong and the things that he learned. And I'm hoping that today he can apply that. And the biggest things that he said was that he was being, you know, more aggressive and less defensive when he needed to be. Obviously, running back Lava Hound 1, 2, 3. We heard from him on day 2 that was only the thing he was going to do on his first day of competition. So, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes Lava twice, maybe Lava Miner once, Lava Loon in the second, and then a very much different deck as his third option. But also with how much he talked about E-Giant and what he'd learned about it, maybe he just goes right back to that. He's also a guy that just would do that. He would just go Lava E-Giant again.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking we might see out of him. I do expect as well one of the decks to be E-Giant. I'm just very curious, not only for him, but what does Lucas do? Do you prepare for lava? Do you play your own game knowing how experienced you are? Do you trust your ability against a lava in not that great of a matchup? Or do you go straight for the snipe? That is part of this this format that is all about the mind games, and we won't have to wait much longer to see Abdullah drop that lava first play.
No, sir, we do not. Fisherman in the back from Lucas, and lava down immediately from Abdullah. And Eric, to kind of answer what you were just saying, I definitely would go for decks that counter Abdullah, because he's very good with Lava Hound, right? It's not that it's his favorite. He's very good with it as well. So you need to go for a straight counter. And there you go. Zap arrows out from Abdullah, maybe looking for his opponents to play Graveyard against him. And it's going to be a lot of damage here on this tower. The balloon does get another drop. Yeah. That is a huge start. And already Abdullah with the wow coming out, and the good luck out of Lucas. But those arrows plus zap, I'm wondering if that was an accident.
I mean, I'm just laughing a little because in the video he said he should be more defensive, and he started off with lava first play with Loon behind it, just straight up going for it all. So that whole defensive thing maybe was in the back of his mind, but once he sees it, he just can't resist it, I think.
I mean, what a good opening hand though for Abdullah as well. You look at the cards that he was immediately able to get to, and you get Lava and Loon, you got Arrows and Zap to deal with a big push on the right-hand side, and now you can see Lucas knows that game number 1 is pretty much already sewn up, but a lot of time left. You still have a minute and a half, but he's definitely looking pretty frustrated.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I think he's frustrated just because he knew what was coming and then he realized he couldn't do anything about it. I don't know if it was just bad luck for him on starting hand. I'm sure if he would have had Mega Knight instead of the Fisherman to go along with the Graveyard, we would be seeing a different game. But that's part of Clash Royale. You don't always have the starting hand that you want, and a little bit unfortunate for him because, like I said, if that would have been Mega Knight Graveyard on the bridge instead of Fisherman Graveyard, it would have been a tower trade 100%.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate when you talk about starting hands there. Fireball going to come out, going to keep this balloon off the tower. 21 HP remains, so that tower will fall. We will be going to a 2-tower game, and a really nice zap from Abdullah out defensively last time around to keep that tower standing. So Lucas will have to spend just a little bit more in this right-hand lane, and we'll see how he wants to fare against this next Lava Hound push from Abdullah.
Yeah, the only thing I don't love about this deck, and that is actually a very risky Loon that I don't think he expected to see at all. And it definitely worked out for him. I didn't expect it. He definitely didn't because he played that Mega Minion up high. If he would have had that for the Loon, that Loon would have never hit. And now it could get really tricky for Abdullah here if he can get a reset onto that Inferno Dragon, which it doesn't seem like he will.
Yeah, nice use of the barbs there to turn that Mega Knight towards King Tower. Abdullah maybe panicking for a moment, but a nice reset there. Now we get a Lava Hound down right in front of that Inferno Dragon as it continues to work towards this right-hand side. No big spell to clean that Mother Witch off the board, and another balloon in the pocket. Yeah, Eric, I really like that first balloon in the pocket. Definitely was not expecting it here in the booth, and I don't think Lucas was either. There's a Fireball coming down defensively as well. Mother Witch getting piggies on the board. Death damage in, 516 to 1918.
He needs to go a little bit more proactive here. If he keeps defending, he's gonna lose straight up on death damage, in my opinion. And this type of Mega Knight is gonna get eaten alive by either the Barbs or the Inferno Dragon. That is not the play, in my opinion. You need to get that Graveyard in with the Mega Knight tanking for it right away. And there it is, death damage, game over. Yeah,
Yep.
He just sat back too long, and it was very obvious to me, and I'm sure it was to you as well, that if this kept on going on for even one more cycle after this, it was game over anyway.
Yeah, you know, maybe a Mega Knight in the pocket or at the bridge. I'd probably at the bridge, you know, so it doesn't just keep getting pulled over to the right-hand lane or to King Tower, as we saw. That's what Abdullah tried to do the last time that Lucas went aggressive with the MK. But aggression is what we needed to see. Obviously, he was very aggressive early on with the Lava Loon in the back. He goes Fisherman plus Graveyard, and like you said, if that's a Mega Knight instead of a Fisherman, opening hand, all that aside, he ends up pushing it to a 2-tower game, kind of resets his situation, and we just needed to see a little bit more aggression out of him because there was no way he could defend that. He couldn't just keep defending it over and over, as you were just talking about. Was it Mega Knight at the bridge Graveyard that we needed to see out of him, or maybe even a Night Witch at the bridge plus Graveyard?
You can do, look, to be honest, I don't think either of them were great options. Like, I'm not gonna say that would win you the game 100%, but you had to go for it. Maybe in the pocket just to tank for both towers and have that Fireball hovered over for the Barbs. Just go all out, right? You throw down the Graveyard first, then you get the Mega Knight down, and as soon as you see those Barbs, you Fireball them as well, and that might actually win you the game. You have to risk it, because at the end, if you don't, you're gonna lose anyway. You don't lose anything by going all in the same way Abdullah was. Abdullah was literally all in for every second of that game.
Which is very much his play style. And you know, at the very beginning of that game, you had said, Lucas looks frustrated because it's like, I knew exactly what was coming my way, and it just took my tower and I lost the game. Is this a misstep by Lucas in his deck? His decksmanship? Should he have looked for a straight lava counter?
Inferno Dragon. Mega Knight is played so often with Inferno Dragon. You don't need both witches. I'm not really sure what he was going for there. I think if you take out that Mother Witch and you go with more of the Inferno Dragon, not only does it deal a lot better with the lava, but if you would have had it for the pocket against that Loon, it would have also helped a lot. I think that is a little bit of a misplay, and you saw that Dimas had it in both of his decks.
yeah, I mean, it could have been one of those things where they're all just looking to get Abdullah's lava pups into piggies, or looking to turn his Skarmy into piggies, but Abdullah has 3 different styles of lava hound deck, and one has Skarmy, one has barbs, and one has e-barbs. So, you know, it's got to be really frustrating to lose that game the way that he did. But I have to admit, if he had a coach, if he had a strategist or an analyst, there probably would have been a little bit more of a snipe in play in game number 1. I mean, Abdullah literally did exactly what we expected him to.
He sure did. And again, it is a little unfortunate he didn't have the Mega Knight to go on with that graveyard early on. It would have been a whole different ball game. So Abdullah did get away with one there, but I still think the deck could have been better with an Inferno Dragon. And if you don't want to use Inferno Dragon, that's fine. I even think a Baby Dragon is better than a Mother Witch, because when you think about it, he doesn't really play bats that much, and the lava pups, yes, they're gonna possibly turn it into those hoggies, but they're always going to get tanked for first. So you still need to deal with the whatever, the loon, the Inferno Dragon, the dragons coming your way, everything before that. Just a little bit of a mishap.
Yeah, and the Mother Witch, you know, usually when taking out that Lava Hound, like you said, when the pups spawn, there'll be something else tanking for them. The Mother Witch will usually target that unit, and by the time that unit's off the board, usually the pups are as well. There's maybe 1 or 2 left, and then the Mother Witch targeting, getting the curse on them. You're only going to get a couple pups out in most scenarios. It's only in the best case scenarios that you're going to get like 4 or 5 from those lava pups. So here we go, game number 2. Abdullah already playing uncharacteristically slow.
He probably doesn't have lava in his hand yet. Let's see if it comes out. And no, he's cycling to it. I'm 100% sure he's cycling to it. The only thing I will say is last time we saw him cycle, he spent like 10 elixirs straight off the bat on 4 cards. So I do like what I'm seeing a lot better here. He's cycling more calmly than he was originally. But look, Abdullah, man, there's some things in life that we can't change. I can't change that. I'm not good at Clash, and you love to lava first play. It is what it is, and you do it very well. So, I mean, there's no real need to change it.
No, I mean, it's working out, and I do agree. He slowed down his cycle just a little bit to get that lava on the board, but lava is on the board, as is a Night Witch in defense here. Snowball comes out. Nice defense there. Snowball both directions. And a little bit of an overspend there maybe from Abdullah. If I'm Lucas, I try to reset here with a Mega Knight in the back and try to get a graveyard down as soon as possible.
Yeah, you know Abdullah is going to lava again as soon as he can, and there's a loon and the lava will come in front of it, and it's just the way he plays. And I think Lucas is expecting it. He's waiting for it, and that's why the Mega Knight hasn't come down yet. And as soon as it does, he might go opposite lane with it and just take this tower. That's what I would do. Because at this point you have so much damage done that I think this defense was just unnecessary.
Yeah, so here we go. Mother Witch is going to be able to spawn a couple of pigs. Bomber, they're down low, will get taken out here by the Mother Witch and that Mega Minion. So honestly, a bit over-aggressive here from Abdullah, and a Snowball, maybe cycle-wise, was behind that Skarmy, so not quite as much as Lucas would like, but obviously not the start that Abdullah was hoping for.
No, but these Skellies should get a couple hits as well, and that does make a difference later on in this game. That is 200 extra damage that he just got basically for free, and now is what I want to see. How are you going to defend this graveyard and the Mega Knight with only having Skarmy? This is where it plays out so well for him, and what we spoke about early on. Mega Knight matches up so well against Abdullah's Bomber Skarmy deck. It's what I identified, and I'm sure that's what Lucas did as well.
You see the BM coming out here from Lucas, and paying it back in spades, because Abdullah has been known to be a bit of a BMer, and SB kind of did the exact same thing when he was able to take Abdullah down before. I mean, as much as we love watching Abdullah play, he definitely knows how to get under the skin of his opponents, Aaron.
And that BM from Lucas, it still bothers him. You can tell that even though he won, Abdullah is still under his skin. It's one of those things where, like, you can't shake the fact that he just beat you with a lava first play lava loon, and he won, but you can see in his face Abdullah's still in his head.
Yeah, Abdullah is definitely still in his head, and Lucas, it's like one of those games where you win and you're like, that's right, I won. I knew what you were gonna do, and I got you. So We'll see if Abdullah does it again. I'd love to see maybe him go to his third deck, but I wouldn't be surprised if his third deck also has lava in it, but maybe he runs this one back. Lucas, on the other hand, you know, we've seen this deck now, the idea of it. He knows that Abdullah is going to go to the skies. He knows he's going to go heavy. What he needs to do is get successful graveyards in and keep one tower, or keep his tower alive through the first push.
Yeah,
I think that's really what it is. If he doesn't keep it alive through the first push, he at least needs to make a tower trade.
Yeah, and that was the problem first game. He just couldn't do anything. He didn't have anything in hand to get that tower trade, and he didn't have enough DPS to deal with the push on the other hand either. So he was in a very, very tough spot. But this time around, he basically knew exactly what Abdullah's plan was, and Abdullah was unfortunate in his own sense to not have his lava ready in the first play, which we know is what he likes to do. The thing I would like to see from Abdullah change is, if it's not first hand, don't force it to be the third card you use. Just go through a full cycle of defense and then go at it. It seems like he always wants to get that lava down, and that's costing him games.
Yeah, and I don't think, you know, that's a necessity for his success, right? Just do that lava push from the back a minute later with a perfect opening hand with a little bit of defense played. And, well, if it's in your opening hand, then don't you ever change Abdullah. Dark Prince at the bridge trying to get on tower here, and Abdullah plays a bomber offset to the right. Pretty traditional of him to play very little defense and try to get on offense, but not a lot of damage out on that left-hand tower from Lucas. Let's see how he defends.
I want to see what defenses he has in this deck, because so far so good. He still needs to take care of that loom though. That will get 3 hits onto the king tower, which is a lot of damage, especially going up against Abdullah, who will probably end up going for your king tower if he does take out one of these 2 towers. He's one of those players that doesn't really care for 2 princesses. He wants the whole 3 crown.
And it is looking again like, I mean, this could be Electro Giant, Eric. We see these cards with Electro Giant a lot at the top of the screen, but we also see those cards with Graveyard a lot. And we'll see if he wants to just keep going back to Graveyard because of his specific opponent. But when you talk about Abdullah, look at the responses. Baby Dragon, Ice Wizard, Goblin, Cage, and Tornado all there. And of course, an ability to create opposite lane pressure with that Dark Prince and that Bar Barrel.
Yeah.
So Lucas definitely looking for the snipes on Abdullah.
Yeah, and he's playing well, and this could also, like you said, it could be E-Giant, it could be Graveyard, it could even be Golem if he wanted it to. Yeah. There's a bunch of different things, and if it is E-Giant, he's in a great position. I would just Lightning this. If it's E-Giant, show me the Lightning, my brother, because you don't need to risk anything with this Loon actually hitting and taking tower, and it might actually do just that. It does not. So he survives, because if this goes to a 2-tower game, I'm very scared for him with that 3 crown.
Really, yeah, the 3 crown is a very, very obvious threat here for Lucas that he has to pay attention to if it does go to 3 crowns. There's the Electro Giant in the back to meet the Lava Hound working down the right-hand lane. Decent damage in on the King Tower here for Lucas, but definitely nothing close to what Abdullah has done to his King Tower. And let's see how he defends this push with that Electro Giant up high. E-Giant gonna get some good damage in as it crosses the bridge.
Yeah, and I actually don't love this this push out of Lucas. I don't think it was necessary, to be honest. I think he doesn't need to go for this E-Giant. He doesn't need to overspend. There's 20 seconds left. Bunker down on defense. Use that Lightning defensively. It takes care of the Loon almost entirely. That is what I want to see. Now you cage. Make sure this is not getting onto your tower, and that is it. No E-Giants, my friend. You already won. Just full defense.
Yeah, and you know what? He still ends up taking the game, but you're 100% correct. There's no reason to set up the E-Giant there. It does cross the bridge and keeps the Inferno Dragon at bay. Takes the Bomber off the board, so it ends up working out pretty well for him. And then you see that Lightning come down right when you called it out to take that balloon out as well. And those are what appear to be snipes, Eric. It does seem like they are starting to come through here. And like you said, if he did have that Mega Knight in his hand game 1, we might already be done with this set.
Yeah, I think we would have been done with this set. This would have been a 3-0. And they are snipes, but Look, you can't be surprised if you're Abdullah, man. If you're running two lava decks and you get countered, what did you expect? And I'm telling you another thing. If he loses this and now he has to go play Dimas, Dimas has two Mega Knight Inferno Dragon decks, and that is even worse for him. So I'm not really sure how he's planning on winning these sets, and that's part of the risk you take, especially when Dimas is in your group. The Mega Knight not only counters lava, it's also his best deck. So it's a big risk he took here.
And you talked about a lot his lack of big spell power in his opening set, where those spells are going to pay dividends against Abdullah if Abdullah does end up dropping another game here. So here we go. Abdullah, bottom of your screen, Lucas at the top, and there we go. Thank you so much, production. 2 games in favor of Lucas. This is a game for Abdullah to either win and push it to game number 5, which has been the tradition over the last couple days and this week in general, or will we see the 3 in a row here from Lucas and we get a golem down, and it does feel like Lucas was ready for the Abdullah Lava Hound decks.
This is rough, my friend. Abdullah, I don't know how you're gonna deal with all these bats that are gonna get spawned here, and if he has the Mega Minion version of this or the NATO, there's the NATO, so that is a missed NATO.
Oh wow,
that hurts a lot when you're playing a matchup like this. That was basically, if he got that NATO down, he basically had won this game already, and now he's in a position where it's getting really tricky. But there's no Skarmy here. I don't know how he plans to defend.
That was a beautiful recognition there by Lucas. Skarmy gets out, arrows come out as well because of those bats that you were speaking of, Eric. Those bats behind that little baby golem pup, or whatever they're called, golemite, baited out the arrows, no elixir in hand, tower down.
And a really nice defense with the Electro Spirit, because he knows Abdullah is going for this 3 crown and he does not want even one bomber hit. Now, how do you defend? I do not mind this golem, but you're gonna need to hit your NATOs, and that NATO is gonna have to actually move the loon over towards the Princess Tower if it's not played completely on the left side of that lava.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to ask you, is that what you go for here, is you take the Princess Tower damage? So we'll find out right now. Skarmy comes down around that Night Witch. Bat's going to populate the map there. No NATO out as this balloon connects to tower. Now the second balloon drop comes in. NATO out now, but Bomber getting tanked for, and that's a lot of damage in. 945 as the second tower goes down here for Lucas on Abdullah's side of the map, but only 746 HP remains. Abdullah needs a miracle.
Wow, and this is actually a smart play out of him. He's trying to get this 3 crown before he does, and this forces him not to be able to use a loon, and this is it.
What a beautiful tornado. The snipe, and that was easy money for Lucas. We haven't seen Lucas since our first day that you and I joined the competition. He was very exceptional on that day. 2 months have almost passed since then, and Abdullah Imad gets worked by the beautiful snipes, the beautiful decksmanship of our player from Portugal.
Yeah, and it came down to the elite barbarian recognition of he doesn't have anything to actually defend this, and it is the biggest weakness in Abdullah's lava deck. I don't like that he goes bomber and Skarmy. I think you should choose one or the other, and then you have to pair it. One, if you want to use the bomber, you use cage with that deck, or if you want to use the bomber, better said, you use the barbs with that deck, and then if you want to use Skarmy, you use the cage with that deck. You always need to have an alternative, but not both of them in one.
Yeah, and you know what? It's something that we weren't sure if it was going to happen coming into today, because we expected Abdullah to run a little bit of Lava Hound, but also giving a little, respect and credit to his opponents. They would come out with snipes. They would come out expecting it. And Lucas did exactly that. And I know I said it just a moment ago, but had he had that Mega Knight in his hand first game, it would have probably just been a very quick 3 up, 3 down. And, when you look back at those decks and those games, Eric, it feels almost like everyone was looking out to play Abdullah in this set.
Yeah, the only one I don't think he actually struggles that much against is maybe Financier, because of the mortar decks. Yeah, they'll hold off a little bit, but the style that Abdullah plays could be very hard to defend against, with everything coming at you on the bridge and only having Musketeer. You know that he has zap for your bats all the time. So I think Financier would have struggled a little bit against him, but at the end of the day, Financier doesn't really have to worry about that. He's in the winner side of the bracket and he's going up against Lucas.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if that's what Financier's kind of thought process was like, all right, I don't have to play Abdullah in game number 1, and I'm giving enough credit to Lucas to snipe him. So I have to think about playing Lucas after game number, or set number 1. And Dimas, on the same side of that coin, he is going to have a great matchup against Abdullah. Lucas and Financier, that's going to be a lot more classic Clash Royale with some very interesting decks out, right? 2 mortar decks plus that Ice Wiz control deck going up against, you know, these 3 decks from Lucas. We had E-Giant in there, you know, the very first deck that we saw out from him, the MK Graveyard deck, and of course Golem as his 3rd and final deck. So I'm very excited to see what happens in both of our brackets.
Yeah, we know Mortar matches up great against E-Giant, and he has 2 Mortar decks, and they actually have some DPS, not like some of the other ones that we've seen that do tend to struggle a little bit more. But the one problem I will say from Financier is he played those Mortars a little bit too high and a little bit too aggressive. If you do that against E-Giant, you will lose. So he needs to understand the matchup, and that's what I'm going to look out for.
So here we go, E-Barbs in on the tower on the right-hand side, and like you said, Eric, with those Bombers and the Skarmy, Lucas recognized that and went, okay, I need to punish you with my elite Barbarians when you don't have a response. He didn't always get what he wanted out of the push, but what he did get was Abdullah to overspend regularly, and then he could punish opposite lane with those E-Barbs. He did it so many times in that set. I mean, he put on a clinic, honestly. So there we go. Lucas GSM from Portugal going up against Financier from Ukraine. The winner of that set will have first place. The loser of that set will drop down into that decider match, and they will play the winner of Abdullah, Imad, and Dimas. And speaking of Dimas, now that we've got our feet below us, now that we've got this train on its tracks, let's hear from Dimas, as we got to hear from the other competitors at the top of the show. This guy had a very nice opening set, but was a little unsuccessful.
And we're in it right away, and Abdullah starting off with what we're used to seeing. Abdullah here with the Loon, but he's actually going to lose his tower in the same way that he just lost it early on in the other game. And this could not have been a worse start for Abdullah coming on, and it's a little bit of what we expected. He's going up against a deck that counters him very, very strongly, and I mean, it is what it is. Abdullah, this is it's a little bit rough, but you chose the lava decks, and I guess this is what happens when people snipe it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that early on, 2 towers down, and it's like wow.
2 towers down and almost the king as well.
And a minute and 40 in the books here, and I mean, this is exactly what you called early on, right? You were like, this is what these decks mean. And so we see E-Barbs going in. Will there be a Skarby there to catch? Anything to catch?
He has arrow zap, so this is actually the other deck. But even then,
wow.
Wait, he could have lost it here.
The Inferno's on the king. Wow. Arrows come out just in time. Wall breakers going into that king tower. 192 remains. One of the wall breakers connects. That is game. Miner goes to the back instead. Maybe a zap in.
Yeah, that's game anyway. Arrows, as soon as he has for arrows, he should throw them. There it is, gone. And Abdullah struggling. I mean, what can I say, man? It's not that I'm like dogging on him or anything, but when you come on to something that obvious, right? It's gonna happen. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, look, we knew it was going to happen. We were hoping that he would do anything but run lava back to back to back. But I think the one thing, if I'm Abdullah, that I can take away from this day and from, the lack of success that he may have at the end of his two sets is he clearly put his opponents on watch. Every single one of his opponents were looking out for these Lava Hound matchups. And unfortunately for him, he made a big impact earlier on in the group stages.
Yeah, he did. And also, I think it's a little bit of having, it's not an ego thing, because you always have to have confidence in yourself, but you have to respect your opponents as well. And you need to understand that they are at the top of the level, the same as you are. And if they play you in a hard counter, odds are that as good as you are still gonna lose. It doesn't matter. And you need to maybe start practicing. On ladder, you can play this deck over and over and over again, because it is the way ladder is played. You play your one trick type of deck. But if you do want to play competitions, you need to take the time and practice other types of decks.
Yeah, and Demas, exercising that. He does have two Mega Knight Wallbreaker decks, but he did vary it up a little bit and has been very successful for him. Here we go. Abdullah, top of your screen, going back to lava, of course. Demas at the bottom here with another iteration of the decks we've seen, and a balloon comes out early on.
Yeah, balloon coming out, and he might just take this. I'm not sure. There's an Inferno Dragon that it will take a hit, but at the end of the day, it forces out a zap. But now, how do you defend? That is my biggest question for him. A zap should come down on the other side. This is the snowball version of it. So this Inferno Dragon is going to take care of his, and that's already game over.
Yeah, that is brutal. Mega Knight on the tower here. Inferno going to get one of these skeleton dragons down. Should take the other one down, or at least very close to. And
look at the elixir.
That is really tough. Yeah, elixir ticking to 10 now is Demas. Abdullah sends in his miner to tick down to 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure Abdullah knows how much elixir Demas has right there. And I'm curious to see how Demas takes advantage of this situation, because he's just almost 5 elixir ahead on him.
Yeah, he probably goes Mega Knight here in front, but maybe that's too aggressive for him. No, he just goes Miner plus E-Barb, so he does do a big push. Arrows on top of the Mother Witch there, and a snowball that Demas is looking for on top of his Mother Witch, but it's not there. Instead, the E-Barbs are on tower, and this has been a very rough day for Abdullah Imad. I can't imagine he is anything other than tilted.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very, very tilted, and this is the last chance he really has, right? Can he make something happen here? I'm not really sure. And arrow zap does kill the skeleton dragons as well, so snowball does the same thing if he does want to use it. I'm not sure if he will. There is the snowball. Those hoggies are distracting. Everything is just working against him, and it's what I expected. It's what you expected. As soon as we saw Demas's decks, it was pretty obvious they were made for Abdullah.
Yep, and Lucas GSM also did the exact same thing. Abdullah Imad zaps the King Tower, as he knows this is another game in the books. Not even gonna play. Oh no, he does decide to defend just a little bit here in the final 10 seconds as they tick down. But Demas very, very happy with the situation that Abdullah has put him in, which is great matchups and an easy second set of the day.
Yeah, and now he has a P.E.K.K.A. Ram Rider, which is also very hard to deal with. It comes with Ghost, and the Ghost will take care of the Skarmy if he plays with Skarmy. The Bomber doesn't do enough DPS to the Ram Rider. It's just very, very unfortunate things that he has to deal with. The only thing I will say is I don't think we've seen Abdullah's third deck. So maybe it is a deck that isn't hard countered by it, and he might go to that, try to get a game on the board, and at least not leave with the 3-0.
Is there any way for him to actually play through? I mean, obviously we talk about the best players in the world and they win bad matchups sometimes, and it's based off of some incredible plays that you can't even really just call out because they have to be in the moment, heads up plays. But is there any way for him to actually play through these matchups?
No.
Or are they basically all just like 90, 10, 100 zeros?
Yeah, no, there's no shot. There is no shot to win these matchups, and even less when you're playing against someone who's an expert in Mega Knight. As a lava player myself, when I play against decks of this style, and I have Skarmy and I have Bomber and I have these Barbs, I can hold off for maybe 1 to 2 minutes, but I always end up losing. It's just not possible to win. You don't have enough defenses. Your Skelly Dragons get basically erased from the board with both of his spells, and on top of that, it resets the Inferno Dragon. It takes care of your Lava Pups. It is just a horrendous matchup, and this is even better than the other one he would have played if he would have played the Skarmy Bomber.
So here we go, game number 3, and Abdullah not feeling too good maybe about his deck selection as we see all these emotes coming out. 2 games in favor of blue, which is Demas at the bottom of the screen. There is that Royal Ghost that you were just talking about causing problems for Abdullah, and we'll see what he does. He's doing what we expect, which is cycling until he can get that Lava Hound in his opening hand.
Yeah, it'll probably come down in front of this Inferno Dragon. I'm not expecting anything different. If he has it in hand, it should come down there, and it probably will at any point now. And a nice they kind of like predicted each other, and a little bit, wow, that is very aggressive.
Yeah, that's a really aggressive lightning, and this should be easily distracted. Yep, it is.
Yeah, the only thing is now he doesn't have that for the Loon, but he has E-Wiz for the Loon, and he has E-Wiz for the next Inferno Dragon. This is so bad for Abdullah, and he knows it. Every matchup just gets worse.
You kind of saw the smile on his face and the tilt of his head. He was like, oh man, like, what am I gonna do? The one opportunity that I probably had with the Ram Rider out of cycle to get my balloon down the lane, and E-Wiz comes down right on top of it, and it's just rough. Like I said, if I'm Abdullah Imad, I at least end the day knowing that I made a huge impact in the group stage, in the international group stage, and so much so that when he got to the international group stage finals, every competitor in Group C was ready to play against him, other than Financier.
Yeah, and Financier must be really happy right now, knowing that he doesn't have to go up against him and that he was up high. Now, Barbarrel is going to take care of that Skarmy, I'm sure. Where is it? Is it coming? Is it not coming? I'm not really sure what is going on. Oh, he decides to go poison. That works as well, but now he has no elixir, so he might actually be able to take tower here with this balloon, and no, just enough time.
Gets a drop in 36 HP top right hand side to 1806 on the left. Of course, bottom left hand side here from Demas ticks down to just below 900, and Abdullah gonna let that tower go on the right hand side.
Yeah, but it's almost done on the left hand side as well. And he does have this E-Wiz. He does have the poison. I would poison early here. There it is. You want to get that bomber off the board, and you don't want to have to use your E-Wiz that early on and get it rid of by the bomber. So really good choice here. And now this is just going to be distraction mode for him until the end of this game.
Yeah, that lightning comes down to clear the lane a little bit. Balloon here at the very end. Ram Rider does do some work. And no connection there from the balloon. And wow, what a very tough 6 games in a row for Abdullah Imad. You got to give him credit for going back to his comfort deck, but you also got to give credit to your opponents. Lucas GSM and, of course, Demas ready for Abdullah Imad and his Lava Hound decks. That is a very quick 2 sets for that young man. And now Demas will sit back and wait to play the loser of our winners bracket, which is between, of course, Financier and Lucas GSM. How you feeling about what we just saw, Eric?
I knew what was going to happen. I mean, if there was one matchup I could tell you was going to be 3-0, it was this one. Demas literally came out to beat Abdullah. It was obvious. And the really, I guess, weird thing would be to see Demas play against Lucas, because they're both snipe decks onto Abdullah, and they're not really great against each other. So it would be a very weird matchup to see. We already saw what Financier's matchup versus Demas is, but it's a possibility that they both have to play the lava snipe decks against each other.
Yeah, that would be a very fun matchup, and we'll see what happens after Lucas and Financier face off in our next best of 5. And you know, Eric, I mean, we could talk through these replays and these highlights, and there's just really not a lot to say, right?
The highlights might be longer than the actual set itself. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You win by your one trick, but you also die by your one trick. That's the way Clash Royale works. We've seen it. Not only for Abdullah, man. Abdullah, you're not alone here, man. We've seen it out of so many players, and we've seen it out of some of the best in the world. Igor being a world champion, he has had his ups and downs with his mortar when he gets hard countered with it. We've seen Anaban have a great start to CRL and then just go down by using the Anaban deck and that style. It happens to everyone, but it's all a matter of, you know what, go back to the drawing board, get more decks under your belt, and really diversify your deck pool.
Yeah, you have to diversify your deck pool. It's so important in Clash Royale. I mean, some players have literally been forced into retirement because they were one-trick players. You know, Royal is a great example. Asuchini is a great example of people that they really were like the best Golem player in the world at one point, the best Sparky player in the world at one point. But you have to evolve with the game. You have to diversify your decks. And Abdullah Imad did not do that here today, and his opponents made him pay for it.
They sure did, and it seemed like he only really had a chance against Financier, who wasn't even in his side of the bracket. And Financier, yep. I'm very pleasantly surprised at his strategy coming in, right? He was like, you know what? Yeah, I might play Abdullah and I don't have the greatest matchups, but I'm gonna first try to get past my first round matchup and work something out that goes well against Dimas, and then if I have to play Abdullah, I'll figure it out then.
Yeah, right. It does really feel like he had kind of played the long game in that one, expecting to win his first set or hoping to win his first set, hoping that his opponent sniped Abdullah, and or if he didn't, like you said, deal with him down the road. And while we're talking about finance here, what better time than now to hear from the man from his own words. So $1,000 more in his wallet from exceptional gameplay over the last couple of months. And one of the things that he said in that video that I really liked was, you know, Predator had run back those same decks back to back to back, or at least the same sort of win condition or archetype. And what was fascinating to hear him say was he learned how he plays those decks specifically and then was able to read it as the set moved on. He was down 2-0 and he was able to turn that around 3-0. Any thoughts on that?
It might be the same thing he did with Dimas, right? That he knows what Dimas was going to play, and it seemed like he knew how to play against those Mega Knight decks. He came out very, very hard against them. He knew exactly how to play to win those matchups, and maybe he's just very, very good at studying his opponents, understanding the way they play them, and now he has similar matchups. You know, Lucas, apart from that Golem deck, he has the Mega Knight decks, which is basically what Financier was very prepared for.
So here we go. Lucas, top of your screen with some double witches coming out. Financier at the bottom, going back to this Ice Wizard control deck. Wall Breakers, Tesla in here with NATO. This is a very hard deck to break through, but also it's a deck that suffers with straight single target DPS. We'll see if that ends up hurting him down the line as he sends a couple Wall Breakers into a Baby Dragon.
Yeah, and defensive miner here, making sure not to take any damage early on, which I don't mind. It wasn't necessary now that we see it, but it is what it is. It didn't really cost him anything, and now that he's going to get nadoed down to the king tower, and that one goblin going to work a little bit.
Yeah, nice damage there from that goblin. Does get a king tower activation. High Ice Wizard here to pull one of those elite barbarians, while a couple connect on the left-hand side along with some wall breakers. That is a very rough start here for Lucas with a king tower activation coming in.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it's about knowing the elite barbarians as well. I've spoken about it a lot, and you need to understand that their field of view, or their sight line, is very, very short. When you speak about the E-Giant, it has the largest view out of anyone, and what I mean by that is it is the only tank that you can actually pull by. You see where the Tesla is? You can play that Tesla a full tile and a half more to the left, and it'll still pull the E-Giant. That is the only thing that happens with. On the other hand, the elite barbarians have the smallest field of view, and you need to know that you cannot kite it the same way as you can other troops.
Yeah, you've talked a lot about, unit density in this competition. You talk a lot about field of view, and those are very important things to recognize, especially when you're playing against cards like the E-Barbs and, of course, the Electro Giant. You have to recognize those things, and surprising hit there with that wall breaker, and Lucas GSM not happy about allowing that to come in. And now, even though he's down to 916 on that right hand side, he has to play the game to the left here for Financier.
Yeah, he sure does, and this is gonna have to come in with the lightning. It's the only chance he has at actually doing anything with this push, and I'm expecting the lightning to come down once the elite barbarians do, but even then I think it's just too little too late. And I don't think that miner was necessary at all, to be honest. I think he could have just nadoed everything back and then miner fireballed the tower, and that would have been game over for him. And I mean, he's going all in here.
And he even could have taken more of the damage and just let the Ice Wizard play that out. His tower was at 2400 HP, so definitely not in any danger of falling. But here we go. Still in it, still alive is Lucas GSM. Ice Wizard comes down with a nado to pull that stuff back. Now we're getting that bridge spam that you'll see every now and again with the Golem decks. High Tesla, and that's game. Yeah,
he knows that that is all he could do, and that is actually going to connect, because like I said, that king tower, although it looks pretty when you're playing against wall breakers, it doesn't actually do anything against them. It is too slow, and the wall breakers just get on tower anyway.
Financier looking really clean today, Eric. It's what we saw in his first day out. His first set, obviously, back and forth against a very good competitor, but he still was the winner there. And now against Lucas, who put a hurting on Abdullah, a lot to do with matchups. Now Financier firmly in the driver's seat through that first game.
Yeah, and now it's Lucas has still the Mega Knight decks, which Financiers seem to be very, very comfortable playing against. So he's in a very nice position here. I thought the only one that could really throw him off was maybe the Golem. He's not as used to playing against it. He could start off bad with a Golem first play, and a Night Witch behind it could cause some problems. But he already got out of this matchup, and he got out of it with that minor control deck. So not a bad start at all for him.
And now I'd really like to see Financier to go to his other mortar deck. Well, I mean, they're both mortar decks, but the one with poison in it, Valkyrie and Musketeer, I believe he had, because I do think that if he plays that bait-heavy version, he might struggle a little bit, but we'll find out.
Yeah, it's also going to be a lot about how he feels against the Mother Witch. We saw that he struggled a little bit, and that is the reason why that set got a little bit out of hand for him early on against Dimas. It was how to deal with the Mother Witch, how to not give it enough value, not give it any value at all if possible. And Lucas does play that very, very well, and I think it's in all of his decks, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what I really think Financier has to look out for.
So there's that Mother Witch you were just talking about. Going to spawn a couple piggies here. Musketeer does come down, so he is playing the version that I was thinking could work out. But of course, bats plus goblins there. Going to be cannon fodder for that Mother Witch.
Yeah, and a nice fisherman there. And this is really, really good for Lucas. He has the mortar up high, which means that he's gonna have to use the Valkyrie, but that's gonna get taken away by the fisherman, and this is not bad at all. If he can get something down on those bats, which he does, this I think has enough HP to actually get on tower.
Nice surround there with the goblins. Definitely would have gotten on tower and just barely avoids that leap. 2490 to 2 perfectly healthy towers on Lucas's side of the map. This is our winners bracket. The winner of this best of 5 will work their way towards the weekend on Saturday and Sunday, where we'll be doing best of 7s to give away $30,000. This is the winners bracket of Group C. One of these two guys looking to join: Hugo, In Thrill, One Hive Hunter, and Eternity from the last 2 days of competition.
Yeah, and those are some great names to have for the weekend. And the way that this group is shaping up, we'll have 2 more amazing competitors going in. And every time I see them play, it seems like everyone has just gotten a little bit better since the first time we've seen. And that's really exciting going into the final weekend of the Gamestars.
Yeah, and we got a little bit of insight as to what the deck style would be, or the exact format for those best of 7s, because obviously we've had players come to these best of 5s with 3 decks they have to win all 3 games with, and it sounds like with the best of 7s they still are going to bring 3 decks to the competition, but they can repeat 2 of them, kind of figure out what 2 decks match up the best against their opponents to get that first 5 wins.
Yeah, it's going to be add more mind games to the already full of mind games format, and I love it. And right now, just to point out, Financier actually defended that push a lot better than I thought, but if he can get a graveyard down here, this is going to get very, very tricky for him.
Yeah, that is a lot to deal with. The high Valkyrie here with the poison going to do a ton of cleanup. Snowball comes in late with a high poison, so once again, really nice defense here from Financier. A lot coming down the lane, but dealt with very handedly. And now maybe trying to get a poison back out. There it is. He's able to get that cycle back around.
Yeah, and he knows that he didn't have enough elixir to actually push on with a Mega Knight graveyard, but now it's where he needs to buckle down and really show us what he can do on defense. This is gonna be it. This is the full push from Lucas. He will have enough for graveyard here. He does have a full bar of elixir, and this is where it can get a little bit tricky for him.
So we see the high Valkyrie there with the mortar in defense. The defensive poison as well comes down for Financier, and exactly like you're talking about, Eric, still a decent amount of units on that board to deal with. That Night Witch going to demand a response, and we see a brilliant reset there. Yeah, they do. We get a bunch of bats on tower and another Mega Knight working down the lane with the Night Witch behind. Lucas GSM really enjoying this elixir lead that he has established.
Yeah, and this all comes and it stems from the fact that he did not overcommit to anything. He understood, yeah, can I counter? I sure can, and I could force something here, but why would I do that when I could just take my time and start a Mega Knight from the back? And he was so smart about it. That's what we spoke about so many times. Patience and pick your moments, and that's exactly what he did, and that's the only reason he has so much control of this match.
That's game right there. You see the Musketeer get pulled away. Snowball comes in on top of those bats. High defensive poison here from Financier, along with the defensive miner. And yes, he is still technically alive, but for how much longer?
Yeah, spell damage and triple elixir, so he has Mega Knight again. And that Valk is actually good for Lucas because it keeps the Mega Knight on the board to tank for that mortar for longer, and it helps him out just a little bit more as if he needed any more help. And here we go, we have a set on our hands.
This is exactly what you want to see in the winner's side of the bracket, especially once they've both gotten through their first sets. And now we are 2 games into our best of 5 here between Lucas GSM and Financier, and a really beautiful turnaround there by Lucas. Like you said, he recognized he had the elixir lead, and it was just reset those Mega Knights over and over and over in the back. Could Financier have done anything other than what he was doing? Could he have actually created enough pressure opposite lane, or was he just kind of stuck in that cycle till the game was over?
Yeah, I mean, he can't really do dual lane pressure or do anything on the other lane because the Fisherman Snowball takes care of the miner and the bats, and on top of that, the Fisherman, it is able to be placed on the other side and still pull it, so it'll just lead to a harder counter push from Lucas. I think this match is not something that Financier should win at any point. If he did, it would have to come off mistakes from Lucas, and Lucas just didn't make any.
So now, no matter what happens for the rest of this set, we will only see Financier playing Mortar. It'll either be this version or the other one that we saw in his first set, as he did win with that Ice Wizard deck. And there it is, Mortar out early on against this Mother Witch, which Lucas GSM, a very big fan of her.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say here that I don't love that Financier is doing is he's playing his Mortars too offensively too early on. Usually, from what I've learned from Igor, talking to him, is that the reason he plays Mortars early on up high in the beginning of matches is to see what his opponents are playing, to bait out cards and get a read on the match. But if you're Financier and you're playing this format, you already know what you're playing against. So there is no real need to Mortar up high. Play defensive, understand where your cycle is, where his cycle is, and then pick the right moments.
Yeah, and save that Mortar for defense, or at least for an option, an opening, if you will, and get a little chip damage in where you can. So Golem setting up in the back here, and as Financier takes to 10, he sets up a Mortar. We'll see how he wants to defend. He does not have poison in this deck.
Yeah, and if he would have used that if he wouldn't have used that Mortar early on, he could have even offensive Mortar there once the Golem was played all the way in the back, and got so much damage out of it and forced out more things to where he probably would not have had the Lightning in hand to deal with this push. And now he puts himself in a position where he took a lot of damage here, and more than anything, he forced out so much out of Financier.
The other big thing about what you're talking about in baiting that out, Eric, is that it also messes up the sequence of your opponent's push, right? Maybe the Night Witch has to come out in front of the Golem then, or the Mother Witch, or the Baby Dragon, and the last thing you want is all of those units right behind the Golem. So Financier does get away with one there a little bit. He's obviously down 200 HP or so in comparison to his opponent, and we'll see what he wants to do. There we go, aggressive Mortar out. Now that we're in double, there's the Golem coming down from the Kite opposite lane, or same lane, excuse me, and we'll see what kind of pressure Financier wants to put on here with the Doctor plus Spear Goblins.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing that he's doing that I personally think is not the right play is mortaring before the Golem goes down. He just needs to be a little bit more patient there. The Golem was going to come down, and it was probably going to come down on the right-hand side behind the tower, the same thing we saw early on, and then you mortar, get some damage in, and he's just being a little bit too aggressive in my opinion.
And he beats the cycle this time around. Yeah. Very fortunate for him. The Electro Spirit doesn't get down in time, does take the Musketeer off the board, but we do have a Mortar lock. And this is trouble for Lucas. Now you can see he doesn't have enough elixir to get another Golem down. Yeah, exactly. He's panicking. He gets the Mother Witch down. Mortar still on tower. He has to spend to catch that Miner. And this is the best place that you want to be in as a Mortar player against Golem.
Yeah, and I think it also came down to the fact that I believe he thought that the Elite Barbarians were going to take the attention of the Mortar once the Electro Spirit reset, but he should have put the Elite Barbarians first and then the Electro Spirit. The Electro Spirit did reset, but the time it took for the Elite Barbarians to actually come down was too much, and that's the reason why it had relocked onto tower.
Really nice NATO there, and this is trouble for Financier. Miner comes in just in time. That is a game-saving Miner, but look at the elixir now. He's down 2.5 elixir going up against Golem. You can get a Golem high and in the center. There it is. I have lost this matchup so many times, Eric. I cannot wait to see how Financier either gets out of this or honestly how Lucas just wins this, because it does feel like it's going in that direction.
Yeah, especially hitting triple elixir now. We're gonna see lightnings galore here probably come out of Lucas. Maybe not this push, but the next one will 100% sure come in with a lightning, and he could even do it right now if he wants to, just to finish off this game.
Yeah, that's game. I mean, you missed that fireball on top of the Baby Dragon as well. Mother Witch comes down right behind with those E-barbs, and that fireball on top of a Mother Witch was only one of the things that were kind of all going awry for Financier. It all came back to that moment that you spoke of, Eric. Why Mortar offensively into a Golem before it comes down? It just kind of sets you up to have to over-defend, and then you're low on elixir for the rest of the game. I mean, from that point on, he was on his back heels. Yeah,
and at that point, I still think you have so much to play with, and you have so much time that you don't need to rush it. If it was this late into the game, then yeah, I'm all for it. but Financier was just a little bit too aggressive with his mortars. And it's the same thing I pointed out when he played Dimas. The reason why those matches were so close was how aggressive he was playing the mortars up high. And I said he got away with it a couple of times where I don't think he should have got away with it, and this time it did cost him.
One of the things that you really have to do, or at least it feels like from watching the best in the world, is when you find yourself in that position that Financier was in, down just a little bit of elixir and knowing that he had to defend, instead of going and staying kind of on the same path that he was on, I would have loved to see a defensive miner come down all the way behind King Tower, reset with the mortar defensively, and then play like a very clean defense that kind of allowed him to get back in the elixir lead, but that just never happened.
Yeah, exactly. You have a great point there with that. And now he's on the back foot of Financier, and to be honest with you, I think Dimas rather play against Financier. So Dimas is in a good position here, because I think towards the end of that set, he kind of figured out how Financier was countering his Mega Knights. And I think we're going to see a whole different set if Financier doesn't win this this specific set here.
Yeah, and you talk about, you know, Dimas's confidence after that last set that he just played, having those beautiful counters against Abdullah Imad. Even if it felt like counters or snipes, it's still a very dominant set, and that does a lot for your confidence. So high mortar here once again from Financier. Going to have to play a Valkyrie plus a Musketeer on defense. No elixir there to surround that Muskie. So a log comes out, and the Princess Tower helps out along with another mortar shot in, and that's a pretty nice start for Financier.
It is, but man, if there is one matchup where I'm telling you, do not play offensive mortars, it is against E-Giant. If he catches you without a mortar for defense and he has E-Giant on the board ready to go, you are in big trouble in this matchup.
Yeah, he really needs to make things happen with his Miner plus Goblin Gang, Miner plus Spear Goblins, or even Valkyrie plus Spear Goblins. Anything that he can create offensive pressure with and get good damage in without getting these mortars on the board. I mean, right now it's working out well, but we're still in single elixir, and that's not going to work as this game moves on.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, that lightning isn't a bad lightning. You start getting some damage on the board, and Lucas knows, as long as I don't lose the game, as long as he doesn't take the tower before we get into double elixir and I could play around with the time, I am good to go. This matchup will be mine if he continues to play these offensive mortars, which he is doing, and I'm very, very surprised at the way he's playing this.
Yeah, I'm shocked actually at how he's playing this right now, and who knows, maybe it'll work out for him. Maybe he knows something that we don't. But yeah, that's a lightning right there on top of those 3 units. Instead, he goes Barb Barrel to try to maybe create a lightning down lower. Mortar shot goes in on top of the Dark Prince.
Yeah,
second mortar comes down. Yeah, this is very, very bad. It's a big time overspend here, and that Musketeer should go off the board here. Nope, doesn't go with the lightning, keeps the Muskie safe with the high Valkyrie, but look at the elixir difference.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to point out, and you best believe there is going to be an E-Giant coming out in front of this Dark Prince. I would be very surprised if it doesn't. There it is. That Musketeer is going to get wiped off the board, and he's going to have enough elixir for a lightning, which he decides not to use, and the Dark Prince causing out the Valk to come out early. It seems like it's a matter of time, to be honest.
Yeah, right now it's kind of like that snowball rolling downhill moment for Lucas GSM. He's getting a bigger and bigger elixir lead every single time this goes through. You see that Financier is having a lot of trouble getting damage on tower other than a little bit of minor chip damage, but mainly spell power. And, you know, it does also, it is important to note that Lucas does need to find his opening. That's a mortar connection again.
Wow, I cannot believe he just let that go on like that. And at this point, I think Lucas is losing the match because of himself.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure where his mind is at. There should be lightnings always coming in with the E-Giant pushes. He's using the lightnings in a very weird way, in my opinion. He's getting the Musketeers off the board instead of with the pushes. Here, get it off the board. I don't want to see that mortar. And he keeps doing this baby dragon thing where I'm not really understanding what the play is. You want to get first the mortar, then worry about the baby dragon coming on. And it seems like he's a little bit out of sorts on how to play this match.
Yeah, he's having a really difficult time making anything happen here. Goblin Cage going to come out to distract that mortar. Dark Prince now going to take the load of the mortar after the cage goes down. High Baby Dragon this time around. Not enough elixir to get that Electro Giant down yet. There's the NATO. Icewiz catches the miner again, which has gone to that same safe spot twice in a row. Gonna have to start varying that up, is Financier, but this is a very fascinating matchup that is going in favor of Financier, but not the way that you think it would.
Yeah, the thing is that this is a mortar matchup, right? We already spoke about this so many times. Mortar should win this. NATO everything together now, get this off the board. And he just took too long, to be honest. It all came down to he played way too conservative for too long. You have to go all in with this type of deck. And Financier really, and you see his reaction. He's like, all right, that was a sweaty match and I got away with it. Wow, I cannot believe he got away with that double elixir, because triple elixir, you knew he was going to cycle 2 mortars and actually be able to defend, but the double elixir, I cannot believe he got away with.
Yeah, it was really kind of a surprising approach that he kept coming every single time, right? He did exactly what you were expecting, which was he'd set up in the back, he'd get the Electro Giant down up front when you were expecting it, but then it was from there on out that he played cards and spells out of sorts and out of kind of sequence.
Yeah, he kept doing the baby dragon in the middle type of thing, and it doesn't work out when your opponent has Valk, because he's gonna distract the baby dragon with the Valk, and there is not enough DPS there to actually make it work. And then the mortar is just gonna make sure that that goes all the way on the other side. And Financier had good musketeer placement to make sure it was never in lightning range of the mortar and musketeer and Valk as well. And I think Lucas just wasn't as aggressive with the lightning as he should have been in this type of matchup.
Yeah, he needed to be a lot more aggressive with those lightnings, get that mortar off the board, and that'll also help retarget that Dark Prince. The Valkyrie has to come down just a little bit sooner, and again, it's all about sequencing, right? It's obviously much more kind of black and white when you talk about a golem, right? You want everything behind your golem, but then in situations like that, getting that baby dragon down instead of the lightning, it maybe didn't seem as obvious to Lucas as it was to us, but he needed to get that damage in, and there you go. There's a lightning early on.
Talk about aggressive. There you want aggressive. There you go. There is aggressive for you, and this should be a NATO. I'm not sure why he didn't NATO to King Tower. He could have NATO'd to King Tower, activated and taken care of the bats as well once it got all close enough. That is strange as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. You know, the miner goes to that inside spot, bats are coming in, you hold for a second, as you were just mentioning, and then you get that King Tower activation and clean up the bats. Maybe you take a hit more damage, but it's definitely worth it. Yeah,
I'll take, if you take a full balloon hit in order to activate, I'll take 3 bats hitting once, you know. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as it seems, especially when you have a miner, because you know that this deck is going to end up beating you by that miner chip, and when you have that King Tower activated, it's a big difference to how much miner chip actually comes in.
Really nice aggressive Valkyrie plus bats push there from Financier. Gets a lot of damage in. Icewiz are distracted by the Valkyrie. Bats cruise on through to the tower, and now we see Financier just keeping up the pressure as much as he can. There's the King Tower activation. Goblin Brawler will deal with those goblins.
Yeah, and that's a big play for Lucas. I'm surprised that Financier gave him another option to activate King Tower by not playing it in the safe spot, but right now he has a nice control, and this should be the same thing that we just saw. This time he decides to go Icewiz instead of Baby Dragon, but we know the Valk is coming in, probably the bats at some point as well, and not too bad for either of them, that interaction. That wasn't a win for anyone.
Yeah, miner plus goblins here with log out of cycle. Valkyrie getting tanked for just a second by that miner, and should connect. There we go. Dark Prince turns everything around.
Yeah, and right now Lucas is having he's kind of on the back foot, which is what you expect when you're playing this E-Giant versus Mortar. Please get a Goblin Cage down here or something. There it is. And now is where I want to see you be a lot more proactive than you were last time. This time I'm okay with the Baby Dragon just because of how much damage was already onto that.
So there we go, pulling everything together is that NATO. That's going to clear that Musketeer plus everything else off the board with that Electro Giant zapping coming in. Second mortar comes down to keep that E-Giant off the tower. And pretty nice defense there from Financier, but now we're starting that same cycle of being down in Elixir.
Yeah, and he's not only down in Elixir, he's down on Cycle as well. Last time he was down on Elixir, but he always had the Mortar. This was his second Mortar, so you have to know that, okay, he is out of Cycle completely, and that is a nice lightning out of him as well. The Mortar is going to distract, but overall, this is a very, very nice start for him into this double Elixir, even though he does take one hit there.
Mortar on tower, 1931 to 12-11 here.
That is, yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there. No, I was gonna say that is what I want to see. I want the E-Giant completely in the back. Those 3 seconds count a lot when you're talking about the elixir that you're gonna have in, to defend later on. Ooh,
yeah,
I don't like
so
that.
slow. Yeah, Lightning only gets on top of the Musketeer there. You see a bit of the tilt of the head from Financier. We'll see how he wants to deal with this. He goes Poison up high, Miner down low, which means he's looking for that second Musketeer. There she is, and Nadal pulls everything together. Not going to be enough to get a Mortar down. Something needs to get on top of that Baby Dragon, though. This is trouble.
Yeah, that is a lot of damage, and it forces out. This is where I want to see a cage. Yes, you want the cage here instead of the Dark Prince, because that Goblin Brawler is going to be a problem for the Valve. The DPS that you get from that is so much that it causes a lot of issues. Save your lightning because a Mortar is coming, and he did not save the lightning because the Mortar was coming. A little bit unfortunate. You want to have the Nadal for the Musketeer and the lightning for the Mortar. Still a W though.
That ocean of red, and that will do it. Lucas GSM, our first competitor to make it through to the international group stage finals, which is where we're at today. Last time he played, I think, was on April 12th. Financier, another exceptional player, the other winner of his original group, ends up falling here to Lucas GSM. What a brilliant back and forth set, Eric.
Yeah, it sure was. And you saw the differences from Lucas in this third match, in his third win, than the one that he lost previously versus Mortar. His lightnings were a lot better. He was a lot more patient with the E-Giants coming in the back instead of in front of the Dark Prince on the bridge. And that was a lot of the game changing. And even though there was a little bit of mistake here and there, at the end of the day, he won. He did just enough in that matchup. That is not an easy matchup. Mortar versus E-Giant is not easy by all means. And congrats to him.
Yeah, and you see their wall breaker connecting on that left-hand side. Seemed to be all going well for Financier early on, and Mega Knight comes down here for Lucas GSM, and that was kind of the beginning of turning the tide, if you will. Lucas finding himself in a great elixir spot for a very long time in this game, and he never got over aggressive. I think during the game you said specifically he never once overspent on any interaction, and he was able to kind of just wear him down.
Yeah, and I mean, this was a very, very fun set overall, and we knew it was going to be back and forth just because of the fact that Financier prepared well against Dimas, and the type of decks that Lucas was running were similar to Dimas's decks in the Mega Knight ones. The only difference is that it's a lot harder to defend a Mega Knight graveyard than it is a Mega Knight wall breakers. So I think that was the biggest issue for Financier, and I really enjoyed every match in this set.
I did too. I really enjoyed it. I like that Financier played his Mortar decks maybe a little bit untraditional, but also maybe that's why he ended up losing this set. He got a little too aggressive with them certain times, or maybe not as defensive as you need to be. But all in all, really, really nice set here. And this is that overwhelm coming in from Lucas GSM, which kind of ended up being his method of madness. As the games would tick down to the final minute, he would finally overwhelm his opponents because of his calm, his patience, his overall knowledge and wherewithal of the macro of the game. You know, this is a guy that has been very calculated since day one.
Yeah, he sure has, and he deserves to, you know, be moving on. Lucas does. I think he's another great addition into that weekend that we're gonna have, and I also really like his deck choices overall today. I think every single one of his decks had different strengths. They match up well against the majority of the decks in this meta, and he was very smart with it. And moving forward, I'm very curious to see what his deck choices are going to be.
Yeah, I loved his deck choice. I loved his style of play with all of them as well. It was clear that he was very well versed in how to play all three of those decks. It didn't feel like he really leaned or struggled on any one of them, which is something that we talked about a lot. 3 different win conditions, and playing them very, very effectively is Lucas GSM, which is why he comes out on top at the end of this set between him and Financier. He is our first place competitor from Group C. Remember, tomorrow we do have Group B, or excuse me, Group D, 4 more competitors, 2 more that we will be eliminating. But first, we have our very last set between Financier and Demas. And before we hop into that set, we've heard from all of our competitors today, except for our full video from Demas. So let's hear from that young man before we hop into our final set of the day. It's always a treat to hear how these players approach the game and kind of pick apart the things that they did right and did wrong. And one thing that he talked about was something that you and I talked about No Fun, who I really enjoyed watching him play, but you could see with our player cameras that he was getting tilted, and that would cause him to make mistakes or maybe not even play strong in the beginning of games, that he ended up at the end of those games recognizing, had I just tried a little harder earlier on, or maybe been a little more dialed in early on, I would have picked up that game. The reason that I mentioned that is not to, you know, harp on No Fun doing that, but it's more to point out the fact that Demas said he did the exact same thing against Eternity. It feels like today the mental fortitude from Demas has been superior to that we saw in the past.
Yeah, I haven't seen him get down on himself at all. Even though he lost the first set, it seemed like he was still relaxed. He wasn't tilted by any means. And the only thing that I do miss watching all those replays is I wanted to see a firecracker deck out of Demas. He played so well with it early on, and I think it's such a good card in the meta right now that it would have worked in his favor very nicely. And I'm a little bit disappointed that we don't get to see at least one deck with that, but maybe we do if he moves on to the finals.
Yeah, there's a really popular deck in the meta right now. It's that Hog Rider, Earthquake, Firecracker, Quick Cycle deck. It's basically like, can I get Hogs on tower, or am I just going to spell cycle you out? And I would be surprised if we didn't see that at all in the competition this weekend with how popular it's been. But also talking about incredibly popular decks, we saw on Tuesday this week the most popular Royal Giant deck in the game from a lot of competitors. Didn't see it at all yesterday, and so maybe our competitors are just picking and choosing very wisely, or maybe trying to hold on to something before they go into the weekend. And I gotta say here, look at the clan name of Financier.
Diva's so sorry. Okay, I like it, man. I genuinely like it. That's the type of a BM that I consider. You know what? It's fun. It's all in good fun. You can tell that he's not doing it out of, you know, maliciousness or any of that. I really like it, and I'm curious to see if Dimas wins this set. Will he make a clan saying sorry, financier?
I hope so. And
I would.
Yeah, you and I, we're both big fans of that part of the competition. I love a little bit of trash talk here and there, obviously without crossing the lines of leaving sportsmanship or good sportsmanship, but this is exactly what I want to see. So here we go. Financier, top of your screen in the clan. Dimas, so sorry. Dimas at the bottom of your screen. Both these guys have won a set and lost a set today, and this is the last set that we'll see here from Group C. One of these exceptional players, Eric, will be battling for $30,000 at the end of this weekend. The other one will be going home with just a little bit of prize money and a full planned ahead weekend of spectating some Clash Royale.
Yeah, and that is gonna hurt a lot. Being so close to competing for the big money and not getting there at the end is one of those things that it just hurts so much more than even getting eliminated early on. You never want to be in that position. I've been there, and it really doesn't feel nice.
Dimas gets this P.E.K.K.A across the bridge. Log has to come out here from Financier to keep it off the tower, so that gives a 2 elixir advantage to Dimas as we tick into double elixir. We'll see how these guys want to fare as Financier is in the lead here by just a bit.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough for him to actually be able to reach the tower with any troops. To be honest, Financier has a lot of good defenses for not only the P.E.K.K.A but the Ram Rider with the mortar and even the Ghost, and I really like this Ghost coming out of him. Last time it wasn't able to get to the Musketeer because it was first caught by the Valk, but this time it was far enough back. And look at that Ewis on the left side.
Yeah, that Ewis on the left side getting some good work in because of that Royal Ghost on the right-hand side, getting on top of that Musketeer. It made it so Financier had to get some more defense down, but still, nice mortar connection there on that right-hand side.
This will hit. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I thought it would hit, and I'm glad my senses still work in CR. I'm not that washed, but yeah, this match is about as close as it can be.
Yeah, hits on both sides of the board there. Yeah, Valkyrie connecting, Mortar connecting, but of course Ram Rider connecting on the other side along with the Royal Ghost. So a ton of damage in on both sides of the board, and this feels like a slugfest here in game number 1.
Yeah, this is really as close as it can be. Where is the poison? Not enough elixir there for it, and this mortar connecting is not a problem for him. He should not worry about that if it does connect. It doesn't connect anyway, but now it does seem to be playing a little bit more in Dimas's favor with the cycle and the elixir.
Yeah, Dimas does have a big elixir advantage, which is why you see that Mama P.E.K.K.A coming down. You're going to see the miner go to the back. Yes, it does. Ewiz is there, and I love the predictive fireball, just knowing that there was nothing else to catch other than the Ewiz, and that should be the game right there.
Yeah, now it's just cycle back to your spells, and it is game over. Very smart play out of him, and it even hits the bar barrel to add to that. And Financier really seems like he has Dimas's number here.
Yeah, so Financier has done that a few times today with really brilliant predictive plays. We saw it kind of hurt him, though, by getting over-aggressive after that happened. It looked like this time he was okay to take the big swing and then reset elixir-wise, so he'd always have something on defense, at least halfway through the game. Initially in the game, it was just like 400 damage here, 600 damage there. Towers were falling all over the place.
Yeah, and it also seemed like... I mean, I'm coming from playing a lot of different games, right? And when you play these other games, you sometimes talk to your teammates, you're like, yo, bait for me, bait for me. It seemed like that miner was such an obvious bait onto the Ewiz, and I'm very surprised that Dimas didn't read into that. The only way that he would feel comfortable minering into your P.E.K.K.A was if he expected you to actually Ewiz there, and Dimas played right into it.
Yeah, that was a really smart miner. The P.E.K.K.A came out early from Financier, or excuse me, from Dimas, because he had the elixir lead. Financier waits for the P.E.K.K.A to cross in front of the Princess Tower, but still in range of the miner. Miner goes to the back with the fireball, and just really brilliant stuff there.
And he's really trying to get through with this Ram Rider deck that I think he was not able to win with originally when he played against Financier. Maybe that's the reason he wants to use it this early on, but it is struggling a bit to get any damage. And here, this might be the only deck that he genuinely has an opportunity to win against, because those mortar decks are a very, very big problem for the P.E.K.K.A.
Yeah, this deck that Financier is running has a ton of control, but not a lot of damage other than those elite barbarians. So we'll see how he wants to deal with this Ram Rider P.E.K.K.A. deck from Demas.
Yeah, and I think the way Demas should play this is you have to bait out those elite barbarians with the Ram Rider, and then have the P.E.K.K.A. play on your side, play a ghost in front of it once it moves on, and that'll take care of the Tesla. It'll take care of the elite barbarians, and that is when the cycle should run into your favor. He decides to go P.E.K.K.A. first, and that is exactly why I would not want to do that or recommend that, because now you have an elite barbarian and a full miner on your tower, and that is basically tower down.
Yeah, the E-Barb resets on the left-hand side. A Ram Rider a little bit too fast on its feet for that elite barbarian, and now a P.E.K.K.A. basically unsupported goes down a lane. 5 elixir in hand to respond. Wallbreaker Kite not gonna work here, and a Piggy gonna get on tower.
Yeah, and that fireball was not it either. You need to fireball the Mother Witch, and he knows it. You see him shake his head, but you still need to be calm. You are in a better position than your opponent right here. If that P.E.K.K.A. goes down, that Mother Witch is not something that's going to do a lot of damage onto your tower, and neither is that Ghost, and look how much damage he did.
Yeah, Financier almost flies out of his seat with that missed fireball, hand to the head, and now a reset here. 1999 on his King Tower to a 1457 on the King Tower of Demas. Mama P.E.K.K.A. going to work down that right-hand lane and maybe try to get a 3 crown here. We'll see how this fares here. Mother Witch comes down and turns those into a couple of piggies and stays far enough away. Doesn't give any spell value with that fireball.
Yeah, and I really want to see how he decides. This is going to be a game of, do I go very offensive or do I try to defend with my control deck? And it's going to be a big decision for him, because I don't know if there's a correct play with it. It's a very, very tough decision when you're playing against this type of P.E.K.K.A. deck. How do you actually get the right play going? And this is not going to kite enough. Yeah, there it is. It is only going to kite momentarily, and that actually gets a hit on the Tesla. That is so unfortunate.
There was a couple of balls bouncing the wrong way there for Financier interaction-wise. Almost every single one of those just did not go his way. The one thing that he did get was that Royal Ghost wasn't able to take out his goblins along with the bar barrel coming in from Demas, but otherwise that was all bad for Financier. So here we go, resetting for the next interaction, the next exchange between these two.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is the correct play, to be honest with you. The elite barbarians coming down all the way in the back is a little bit sketchy in my opinion, knowing that he can just P.E.K.K.A. all the way in the back, and then he'll cycle all the way through to another P.E.K.K.A. to a Ram Rider, and even then that Ghost did work on the right.
Yes, it did. That's exactly what I was just going to mention, Eric. That Ghost bringing the King Tower down to 579 HP as this 3 units work down the left-hand side. Ram Rider works down the right, and there's just no way that this King Tower is actually going to fall at that rate. So 60 seconds remain. Miner still there. 1025 to 579 with a very healthy P.E.K.K.A. and Royal Ghost working down either lane. Poison coming in, narrowing that gap by just a little bit more.
Yeah, and he just has way too many answers in my opinion at this point. It took him a little bit too long as well to actually get the groove of how he wanted to attack this. And it all comes down to what I was saying. I think he didn't even know the answer to my question that I didn't know either, right? I wasn't saying do this or do that, but it is a very, very hard decision to say, I'm going to go all in on offense or I'm going to go all in on defense, and I think I can hold off. He didn't know, and he was doing half of each.
211 remaining on that King Tower, and it really does feel like this is going to be Financier's loss here after he picks up the first game. 211 remains. Ram Rider going to connect. There it is. Demas does take game number 2 here in our elimination set. Best of 5, of course, as we're about to join game number 3 here in just a moment. Eric, what went wrong there for Financier? It felt like he had a decent amount of control for a while.
Decision making. It comes down to that. Whenever you play Clash and you get into these situations, if you defend a little bit and go on attack a little bit. That never works. You either have to commit to go on full defense and make sure he doesn't get enough damage to where he can overtake you and your minor chip will not be enough, or you need to go all out. As soon as you see that P.E.K.K.A on the right, you go elite barbarians, wall breakers, minor, fireball, everything onto that king tower, and he didn't do one or the other, and it ended up playing against him.
You'd see wall breakers plus minor plus elite barbarians all working down that left-hand lane, but it was in an odd sequence, or at least one after the other. So as you were pointing out, he could just drop, Demas could just drop that P.E.K.K.A down really low, play great defense, have enough elixir and enough of a cycle to get that P.E.K.K.A back down around on the other side of the board. And I think the biggest issue there is you're getting so much spent by Financier with very little damage coming in, and you're not taking any HP away from that P.E.K.K.A. So like you said, he's caught doing both or doing double duty and just not able to kind of succeed doing either of them. So back to this control deck is Financier.
Yeah, this is a pretty odd push here to start off the game. Inferno Dragon, elite barbarians on the bridge, not something I expected. And at the end, it doesn't really make a difference. It ended up being just the same. And nice fireball there from Financier, who I think remembered the way that Demas defended early on in last time they played, and didn't want the same thing coming out.
Yeah, I really like that adjustment by Financier. Ready with that fireball to go. Takes the Mother Witch off the board. Gets that wall break connection on the right-hand side. And a perfectly timed Mega Knight there. Hands on the head for Financier. But honestly, I don't think you should have been surprised here, Eric. You should have known exactly what was coming down.
I was just about to agree with you. Why are you surprised? I wasn't surprised. I mean, you knew what was gonna come down. You know he has Mega Knight, and that is a bad NATO. Yeah. Oh, and
beautiful
nice
arrows. Look at that. Demas even gives himself a little snap there on the side. Not happy about maybe. I think he hit the King Tower with those arrows. Is that what it was?
Yeah, he did. He expected. He expected the NATO to activate King Tower. But is it activated? It seems like it's not.
No, it's not. So he was just happy about getting that play off. Arrows coming in.
I thought the arrows did hit, but then I started looking at the screen. I'm like, wait, the little gun is not out. Yeah. What is actually happening? And I'm confused then why the reaction, because the reaction did seem a little bit like he was disappointed.
Wow, and look at that beautiful fireball in from Financier again. This time Demas tries to change up his defense. He doesn't go Mega Knight. Instead, he goes with Mother Witch plus E-Barbs, and a good amount of damage comes in for Financier.
Yeah, and this is about as back and forth as a match can get. They're both predicting each other very well. The fireballs out of Financier have been great, and the arrows out of Demas have been even better as well. So I mean, that's the reason this match is as close as it is. It's not because one of them is making a mistake. They're just both playing so well.
Miner goes to the safe spot there. Ice Wizard out to help and to get a NATO to pull everything back. But look at that fireball in just in time, and that means there has to be an elixir favor in Demas' side. And look at that, he sets up a Mega Knight in the back.
Yeah, that'll actually get a hit. It doesn't really matter that much, but a hit is a hit. And when we saw games yesterday finished by 1 HP, now I'm a little bit conscious about every single hit I see coming onto any towers here.
Yeah, that miner, one hit from that miner could be more than enough, as we saw many games be decided by less than 100 HP yesterday. Obviously, a miner hit doesn't do over 100, but still, point remains. Maybe a zap on top of these.
He decides to go Mega Knight, yeah. Not what I expected there. And I don't know about split lane push this late into the game. I just don't think it's the right play. You're not going to get enough damage, in my opinion, and that I really like. Maybe some arrows to come down here. No arrows, actually, and a
little surprised on that.
Yeah, that was a lot of damage that could have came in if he did arrows there. I'm not really sure why he was so hesitant on it. He had enough elixir, and you do have zap as well for the wall breakers, so you're not empty-handed if you do that. So I'm not really sure. He
would have had to play this Inferno. He would have been able to reset with something else in the back. The Inferno had to come out just because. So we'll see if arrows come out this time around with the next miner that comes down. Here we go, push on the left-hand side. Arrows plus Miner out there defensively, so we will not see any Arrows on offense here as Elite Barbarians come down from both competitors.
Yeah, this is about as back and forth as you can get, and he needs to have a Mega Knight down here, and there it is. Will this actually be enough?
Oh,
It
wow.
is just enough, but now this is it. This is game time. That fireball might have just cost him the game. It could have been a little too aggressive in my opinion. He needs to have arrows ready. Those goblins are going to come down, and where are your arrows? There are your arrows. The Mega Knight is still tanking, and look at how much damage is coming in here.
E-Barb's back on the board. Mother Witch behind. Gonna spawn some piggies there. This could be Demus's game. Miner back on the tower. Wall breakers in. One Mother Witch shot comes. 137 to 462. And Financier cannot believe 325 HP in favor of his opponent, Demus.
It was that fireball. As soon as I saw it, man, I've done that so many times where you think triple elixir, I can fireball here with my miner and then just defend. And no, sir, you need that fireball for that Mother Witch because you just lost the game to it. A little bit too much of an overcommit, too excited to get that game over with. Maybe he just didn't time it correctly on how much time was actually left in the game. And what a game. What a match by both of them.
Yeah, man. What an incredible set here. And I think it's the same as yesterday where we're starting our day with the exact same set that we're finishing our day with the exact same set that we started our day with, but very, very different. Financier was able to take Demus down early on, but now Demus putting the work on Financier. And you know, some of that arrow play was a little suspect, but you know why he was holding on to him, always making sure he could defend adequately. And here we go into game number 4. Blew up one game 2-1.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope Financier doesn't have the same type of superstitions that I do, but ever since I've been in competitive gaming and even in sports, I hate playing the same person twice. I always feel like if I win the first one, I'm bound to lose the second one. I don't know why, but I've always hated doing it, and it happened to me. And for some reason, most of the time when I did play them again, I would lose. So I'm hoping Financier doesn't have those same superstitions I do and can possibly bring this back.
Yeah, Demus does feel like a different man than what we saw earlier today, though, playing a lot more calm, adjusting to what Financier is doing, and letting the game come to him as opposed to trying to make things happen, which I felt like we saw a lot of in his first set out today. That's got Fireball written all over it as Financier takes a nice hit early on up about 500 damage.
Yeah, he sure does. And good early damage, but this is exactly what we saw last time as well, right? He had a damage lead, and here we go again. Elite Barbarian sneaking through. You need to make sure that you know that radius, and these are not going to get distracted. This is not the same as a miner. A miner will retarget it. This time around, he does not. And good fisherman, because that's going to pull the miner, or no, it takes care of the wall breakers even better.
I mean, Financier even got away with one there. The fact that the arrows came out a little early from Demus doesn't clean up the goblins, and that would have been a lot more damage. Would have been towered down, actually. But instead, Financier forced to overspend on defense. You see that he's taking damage here, but still even with only 611 HP remaining on his top right tower. And this is an elimination game. If Demus wins this game, he will be our second place competitor. He will go to our finals this Saturday and Sunday. Financier will be taking that long walk with $1,000.
I'm just thinking right now, how does Financier actually come back in this game? This is a deck that you never want to be down on elixir, and those arrows might be his way back into this game. Wow. If you're Demas, bro, please don't ever do that again. You literally, all you have to do is defend. You don't have to do anything else in this game. You are in spell range late on in the game. Minor zap arrows will win you the game later on. Save those arrows always.
See these E-Barbs getting split. Nice hit there on the left-hand side from Financier. Only 10 seconds remain as another fireball comes down, taking that tower to 1106. Miner going to go in here to the back. Hog up front. Snowball going to push everything away. Maybe Arrow's going to come down as well to get a little bit more tower damage in. Now that those wall breakers are there, there they are.
That's
and
it.
29 HP
Snowball.
remains. That is it. Inferno Dragon gonna do it. Demus starts his day off with a loss to Financier in the first set of the day, but he's able to turn everything back around, climb that mountain, and he is our second place finisher on the day. Lucas, GSM, and of course, Demas. How you feeling about our two first and second place competitors, Eric?
So far, the last 2 days, it's what we expected, right? We expected those players to move on, and I'm very, very happy for Demas to... It's what he spoke about mentally, right? Mentally, he was getting tilted. You can see that today, even though he lost that first set, he was okay throughout the whole thing. I never saw him get down on himself. I never saw him get angry, BM or anything. He was ready to go. He was focused, and it's not easy to go up against someone that you already lost and play your life in this tournament.
Yeah, and Financier on the other side of it, nothing but struggles here in this set. He was able to take game number 1, but that's really about it. He had nice control early on. Both these guys were going back and forth, but you saw the game kind of slip out of hand, and that beautiful predictive fireball minor push here on top of that E-Wiz, that's really what sealed it up. Financier looked really good in game number 1, at least halfway through game number 1, but from game 2 on, it was pretty tough for him.
It sure was, and you saw it in his reactions over and over and over again as the matches went on. He was more and more frustrated with himself because he knows he could win these matchups. He already did do that today, but it seemed like he tried to close out the matches a little too soon, as opposed to in the first set, he let them ride out all the way through. And if he had to win by 20 HP, by 100 HP, he would do that. And I think that was the main difference between this set and the first set he played.
And you look at one of the biggest detriments to Financier's success today. If you look at these replays, we've already seen a missed fireball, a missed tornado, things like that late game. That missed fireball was what caused him to lose game number 2. That missed tornado is what caused him to lose this game number 3. And that's basically what it's been. When you lose by 300 HP and you miss a tornado early on that allows elite barbarians to connect, that's way more damage than 300 HP. So Financier's skill was there, but his spells just were not.
Yeah, and it's maybe round 2 of what I said for Roofy, right? The skill is there. You just got to perfect it. It's all about, because Financier, I saw a lot of amazing plays out of him. Good predictions, really, really smart play. And it's all about just perfecting it, not getting ahead of yourself. And look, if you're listening to us, all I can tell you is look at someone like Wallace, look at someone like Vitor, right? Who had the same issues he did in CRL early on. They would get ahead of themselves. They would, try to finish the game off too soon, and they ended up being in world finals. So you have a long road ahead of you. Just keep working.
Lucas, GSM, and Demas will join One Hive Hunter, Eternity in Thrill, and Hugo this Saturday and Sunday at the World Finals, or the International Finals for Gamestars League. $30,000 on the line. And of course, as you guys saw for a very brief moment there, Broken, Venavicious, Demon Chocolate, and SB will be the last 4 competitors up tomorrow. 2 of them will move on. 2 of them will get eliminated. But first, let's talk to our first place competitor from today. Lucas, how are you doing, man? Very excited to see you move on through the competition. Lucas, can you hear us?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hey, how are you doing, man?
Hello. Oh, okay. Sorry, it was. I don't know. Yeah. What was your question? Sorry.
Oh no. So I was just saying, congratulations first of all, and I want to start off with your very first set against Abdullah. Were you expecting exactly what you saw? You had beautiful counters to him, but you still seemed a little upset.
I mean, everyone was expecting, not only me. I mean, I was upset because, like, in the first game, like, Ilava first play, and my end was Fisherman, Snowball, Fireball, and Graveyard. That was my end. I literally had nothing, like, no troops to put on the board. Like, that's why I was mad, because, I mean, I was expecting a 3-0, not gonna lie. I mean, I was expecting a quick game.
Yeah, we spoke about that a little bit, Andrew and I did, that the only reason it wasn't a 3-0 was we assumed that your starting hand did not have that Mega Knight, because if it did, it would have been game over since the beginning. But were you a little bit worried moving on and having to play Financier, who played against Mega Knight decks and did well versus Dimas, who is a Mega Knight player, or you were comfortable seeing the matchups that you were going to get?
I was more confident against Dimas because like I don't think he could beat me with his Mega Knight deck. I think he would be stuck with the deck like all 3 games because I think I was beating with Golem. I think I was beating with all my decks, his Mega Knight deck. So I kind of was rooting for him, you know, when I saw the first game. But then I mean against Financier, I was kind of like, I don't know. I think it could have went either way, but yeah.
So Lucas, it's been a few weeks since we've actually seen you compete because you have had so much success. A big part of your success today was your different win conditions and your different decks. How do you feel about your deck selection here at Gamestars League? And do you even have a comfort deck, or are you a guy that's always been able to play all archetypes, all win conditions?
I prefer heavier decks, but I tend to like I can play. I prefer heavy decks, but I can play anything honestly. But my preference has always been heavy decks.
Yeah, I mean, you were the first person to play Golem in a while. Do you feel like Golem is viable in the meta? Sorry to cut you off, Eric.
Oh, you're good.
No. So, my idea, like now that I showed my decks, I can like talk about it. I have 2 decks that have like the Night Witch and the Mother Witch. I just love like the combo between the 2 cards like in the same deck, because like first like almost everyone runs Fireball, so the Night Witch is broken when people are running Fireball, and then if they are running like, and then the Mother Witch also like baits spells, so it's like the perfect combo. I just love the combo. I think it's broken. That's why I have in 2 decks, the Mega Knight and the Golem. And yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to, really touch on here is I've had you on my friends list for I think like 7 years now, and you've been competing. It's something that like at the end of every season I'm like, wow, he's still playing. Wow, he's still playing. Do you think having that much experience is a huge factor in a tournament like this? Because there's a lot of new faces and players that we haven't seen. How big of, I know the deck selection is a big part, but how big of a part do you think your experience is?
Yeah, I think it's a big part. Like most of the players here, like they don't really maybe don't have like a good preparation, like choosing decks and maybe playing a little bit nervous. I'm not new to that, so I feel pretty comfortable. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, and it obviously shows through in your play style. You play incredibly well. Your deck selection has been phenomenal. And like I said, being able to come out with all different types of win conditions. We're very excited to see you play this weekend in those best of 7s, Lucas. I think we'll see you on Saturday first, and then hopefully again on Sunday. So congratulations. Get some rest, prepare some decks, and we'll see you this weekend, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. See ya.
So there it was from a very experienced player. I mean, it's crazy when you say that you've been friends with him for 5+ years in game on your friends list, and that experience really does show through today. Eric, we're through 3 days of competition. What do you think it is? Is it experience? Is it decks? Is it a combination of both? How do you succeed if you're Group D tomorrow?
Man, I'm an experienced type of guy, man. I will always pick experience over anything when it comes down to elimination, and that's why I had the players I did on my team. The only rookie I ever took a risk on was Igor, and that's just because he's more talented than any other person I've ever seen touch the game. But I think SB will have a huge advantage looking at that Group D.
Yeah, SB was a very dominant force his first day out. He struggled a little bit against Abdullah Imad, but was able to turn things around. So Hugo, Inthrill, One Hive Hunter, Eternity, Lucas GSM, and Dimas will be moving on to the competition this weekend. We say goodbye to Financier and Abdullah Imad. Tomorrow, Group D, same time, same place. 4 competitors going to get narrowed down to do with 5 best of 5s on track for Friday. A very, very exciting day there. And of course, Saturday and Sunday, best of 7s all day long, giving away $30,000. So make sure that you are here. You are subscribed to the channel. You turn on those notifications. Go follow Eric on Twitter at EB7. You can follow me at Andrew Guy. Follow everything Gamestars League out there. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Central European Summer time. For Eric Benamou, I'm Andrew Guy. This is Gamestars League. You keep on clashing, and we'll see you tomorrow.